there, ref. That's he got the ball. Yes, good evening, Spurs fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boys Dave, Jack, Soren, Dermot, and Martin here this evening as we build up to what could be Frank's last game after his last supper with the board yesterday, but also a massive night in the Champions League where, we're still on to get outside it, to qualify in the top 8. So if we can win tonight, it will help massively push us towards that, but the odds are stacked against us. Only 11 first team players fit. Some of them are not even going to make the full 90 minutes because they're carrying knocks. So it will be a night where we'll probably see a few youngsters make their debut tonight, which would be very, very interesting. But make no mistake about it, is a huge, huge night for this football club. And we have a lot to discuss. So let's just quickly welcome a few people in and then we will crack on. Good evening, Terry Wright. Good to see you. Good evening, gents. Come on, you Spurs. Berto80 says, crazy rumor about Spence in front three, huh? We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I've no doubt, he could play wing if you asked him to. He's skillful enough to do it. But
no.
Let's wait and see, my man. We've got Sean Hurley. Evening, guys. Another match day misery. Or will there be magic? Look, we rock up to every game hoping there will be magic, despite Thomas Frank telling us we're not loyal. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see, my man. We've got Logan in the building. Good evening, fellas. Big up, as always. Good to see you, Logan. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. We've also got Mark P in the house. Evening, everyone. Good to see you. Logan has also sent in a super sticker, Jacko. What have we got going on here?
He's a diamond, Dave. Diamond in the rough of Thomas Frank. Logan THFC. Thank you, man. Very, very, very generous.
Big up, Logan. Very, very kind of you, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well and hopefully you're set up for a good evening tonight. Finfuego says, Sean, I'd back mediocrity tonight. You take it. That's the sad state of affairs of where we're at right now, isn't it? We've got DYT says, will be a draw, some shit like that, with some positive play for 15 minutes in the second half. A draw keeps us in it to the last game, so I'd probably take that right now, to be honest with you. Kerry King, evening all. Really sad and worrying times, absolutely. And then anyone but Frank says DYT. We've also got Shem Tam in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well. Good to see you in the building. Can we start the academy kids and put the senior players on the bench? Might do better. Now, I know Sam in the group chat earlier on was saying he'd probably almost prefer it like that rather than relying on the kids to come and change the game tonight, which I can sort of see the sense and logic in that. J-Mac, big up, Davey Lad, Jacko, Soren, Martin, and Dermo. Come on, you Spurs. Good to see you, J-Mac. We've also got Gamel Smurf in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well. And we've also got Del Boy. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. And then Rick as well. Big up, fellas. Every game is a chance to turn things around. Come on, you Spurs. Absolutely spot on there. And then we've got this from Wembley 1. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're keeping well. Really appreciate the support. And he says, evening, boys, and all in the chat. I like that. He doesn't forget about you guys also tuning in the chat. The scarier the game, the more welcoming is right here for the build-up. Big up, boys, and do they make sofas large enough to hide behind for this one? Scary. Come on, you Spurs. Well, I would hope. You probably won't get a sofa big enough, to be honest, to be able to hide behind right now, because the reality is, as bad as it is right now under Thomas Frank, there's also no guarantee, that an interim manager or the next manager comes in and turns things around. I would hope they will, but there's no guarantee of it. So we might have to buy an extended sofa, that you might need to hide behind for the next couple of years. But let's wait and see on that one.
Probably want one of those sectionals that you can just separate, the pieces and then just stack them on top of you so that you don't have to watch the game. You can just suffocate yourself, Wembley. Big up, man. Really, really generous support. But yeah, I'm pretty sure at least Spurs, they should be in the market of trying to invent that sort of technology with the way things have gone the last few years. They should try to look into that.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's a big night, Wembley, and I believe there's 9,000 tickets or something that are unsold, heading into tonight's game, something like that. So, there's going to be a few sparse areas around the stadium, which shows more people are probably looking to hide behind sofas like we are, Wembley 1. Good to see you in the building, and hopefully you are keeping well, so I really do appreciate the support, my man. Jacko, let's kick straight into it. I mean, attention now turns to the UEFA Champions League for Tottenham Hotspur after a turbulent couple of weeks in the Premier League and the FA Cup. Does this competition feel like a welcome distraction tonight from domestic struggles, or does it simply magnify the problems when Spurs are tested at the highest level?
It actually has been a welcome distraction for a while now. That was under Ange, and weirdly been under
20 odd games unbeaten in Europe now.
Yeah, and Thomas Frank, I can't believe it, has actually carried on for the most part that form. There have been some really scary moments against, of course, Monaco, against Bodo Glimt, similar yellow and black team, but we've had some pretty shocking performances in the Champions League. But we've also had some good ones. It has been a welcome distraction for a long time now. Like I said, even in Andrew's case too. And let's just hope that carries on tonight. But this will be the biggest test to that sort of form and to that type of luck that we have been having in this competition. We have seen just in general some of the best attacking performances from Thomas Frank in the Champions League this season. That's probably more down to the scale of the opponents, you would say, but Dortmund are no mugs, and this will be very interesting. I think what's at least nice about the Champions League is that you are coming up against teams that you don't really play that often. It's kind of just a one and done. You get to see what maybe other players are capable of that maybe aren't always in the team. This time around, we only have 11 players to pick from, which we'll be talking about probably later on in the show. But looking forward to it, Dave. At the end of the day, I think, the Champions League nights are always a welcome distraction, or always been for some reason, a better version of Tottenham Hotspur. This will be, like I said, though, the biggest test of whether we'll actually get the best version of ourselves, though, tonight.
Yeah, 100%. It is going to be a huge test. But at home, the Premier League, despite our form in domestic competitions at home, in Europe is, I think, 23 or 28 games unbeaten. I can't remember which one, depending on my eyesight and what time of the day I read it, I suppose. But, we do have a very good home record in Europe. And I don't think we've conceded at home in Europe this season under Thomas Frank, which is absolutely crazy. So there is that bit of optimism heading into today's game. But, Jack, I mean, how much does recent form actually matter when you step into games like this? Does confidence reset, or do bad habits sort of follow you into the European stage? I guess what I'm trying to find out is, do you think the players raise their game for Europe?
I mean, I would think that form from the domestic campaign would carry into it. But again, like last season, that wasn't the case. We saw some of the most effort, some of the best attacking football, some amazing performances from Ange Postecoglou's team last season in Europe. And then you would absolutely stink up the show in the Premier League the following game. And the same thing has strangely happened under Thomas Frank, where we've saw some real shit show performances. And then all of a sudden, midweek Champions League night, we get an amazing version of Spurs. Like Xavi Simons, you would say, has had some of his best performances in a Spurs shirt during these European games. So I would say that I would think, Dave, by logic, that no matter what, the form that you're having would carry on into a different competition. But strangely enough, with Spurs, that just doesn't seem to be the case. Like our bad habits just don't seem to actually follow us, to be honest. I would say normally I would disagree with that logic, but Spurs have defied that logic.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy when you think about it, to be honest with you. And maybe last follow-up question, Jack, what do you think the atmosphere is going to be like there tonight, for fans maybe turning up to the game? Do you think it is going to be maybe a bit of a positive atmosphere, everyone trying to get behind the team and rally for the cause tonight? Or do you think, it's going to be much of what we've seen largely for this season, large parts of last season? And, what do you think it's going to be like with like 9,000 seats unsold tonight? It's miraculous that we haven't sold out one Champions League game yet this season.
Well, that's where I'm going to probably be a downer here. I would say that it's going to be a pretty awful atmosphere. You would expect that this game should be sold out. It's not. It's going to be the complete opposite of sold out. There's going to be close to 10,000 seats empty. And then you also know that with the traveling away fans, in Dortmund's case, they're going to be loud. They're probably going to be out singing and making more noise than the Spurs fans. So I could see this being a quiet and pretty testy atmosphere from Spurs fans. They're hoping to see their team win. But if we do go a goal down or 2 goals down, I could see it being an absolute graveyard, to be honest. I don't expect this to be a good atmosphere, unfortunately, which is down to the players and down to the manager for not giving fans that belief that there could be a good atmosphere. I mean, the evidence shows 9,000 people deciding to not buy tickets, or 9,000 empty seats is just a damning indictment of where we're at and what the atmosphere is going to be like.
100%. The failure to put bums on seats is absolutely madness, considering the clamour for this club to get from fans, for this club to get back in to Champions League. But it shows, how badly it's gone wrong this season. The fact that they can't get the bums in the seat. The football isn't inspiring. The manager doesn't inspire bums into the seats. A lot of people are giving up seats because their loyalty have been questioned and all of that sort of jazz. And it's just one big absolute mess. But what I will say is, and what I do urge fans is, I know it's going to be a difficult one to sort of execute, but let's not take any of our frustrations out on any of them youngsters tonight if any of them end up taking the pitch, because at the end of the day, it's not their fault. It's just not. So let's try and support some of the younger members of the squad tonight when they do end up taking the pitch. I mean, Soren, how are you feeling heading into tonight's game? I mean, are you going in there with genuine belief that Tottenham can still rise to the occasion in Europe, like Jack pointed out, like we saw under Ange Postecoglou last season, despite the chaos domestically? Or does this feel like another night where expectations are already rock bottom before balls even kicked?
Oh, you had to come to me first, didn't you? I'm going into it. Look, I'm feeling a little bit numb, probably same as every single Tottenham Hotspur fan at the moment. But I'm a little bit like Tarzan. I'm still swinging on that little thread of hope. And I'm probably going to get some absolute pelters tonight from the chat. So I'll apologise to everybody now for being a numpty all night long. Look, we're absolutely bed thread. We're down to the bare bones. And Thomas Frank is absolutely battling for his job. The players, they need to show some sort of professionalism tonight. And for me, anything but a smashing is positive tonight. If we lose 1-0, if it's 0-0, if it's 1-1, I don't think that's a bad result for us, because everybody's expecting us to get absolutely battered. What I want to see tonight is I want to see the players absolutely gel together and for once just give us something to shout about. So I'm going to try and stay positive for tonight. I think we can do it. I don't know why I think we can do it. There must be something in my coke. The fire must be some marijuana or something on the fire, but I don't know. I've just got a sneaky feeling we're going to be all right tonight. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm staying positive somehow.
To be fair to you, right?
That comment, Soren is happy with the loss. Listen to what I'm saying for once. I'm not happy with the loss. I just don't think, if it's a 1-0 loss, I just don't think it's the battering that you all expect. And it's comments like that just divide the fan base left, right, and centre. I'm being realistic as well as trying to be optimistic. So, look, if you want to come at me this early, let's have a go. Come on, and let's have a go.
Yeah, use your ears, Tyler. Use your ears. Listen to what he's saying.
What I will say is, though, to be fair to Soren, I've often seen Tottenham go in with problems left, right, and centre, and often come out with a result when no one expects it. So, to be fair to Soren on that one. But look, Soren, maybe a follow-up question. I mean, Dortmund are unbeaten in their last 7 matches across all competitions, while Spurs have lost, the last 3 straight. I think it's 3 wins in their last 15 games. Do you fear that Dortmund's maybe momentum coming into this game will be too much for an out-of-form and injury-hit Tottenham side tonight?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I don't watch a lot of German football, but I do watch a bit. And I think any German team going in a European tie is always a hard match. It's always a hard match. And coming to a team that has got absolutely no belief in what they're doing at the moment, that's all, everybody is expecting an absolute steamrolling. And this is why, I don't know why, that sometimes when our backs are absolutely against the wall, we somehow come out with it. And look, Dortmund is a great team. It's a great team. And if we can pull something off tonight, then I will absolutely love it. Absolutely love it, in the words of Kevin Keegan. And yeah, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to hope we can win. I'm going to hope we can draw, whichever. And but as long as we don't get absolutely battered, then I just hope as a team that is threadbare, that is absolutely devoid of any belief in itself, if we can come out and look half respectable tonight, then I think it's not the worst result in the world. And it's kind of, everybody goes on about being a win-win or a lose-lose situation. To me, if we lose, everybody's expecting it. If we win, everybody's going to be disappointed as well as being happy because they all want Frank to go by losing. And I just think the team is at the position now where they've dug their own hole and now they've got to fill it in. And let's just hope there's a little ladder in there that they can climb out of and do something for the fans tonight. So yeah, I'm going to go with we'll be all right tonight. We will be all right tonight.
And on what you were saying there, I don't think any fan should be going in looking to lose tonight just so the manager loses his job. At the end of the day, getting out inside the top 8 and avoiding a double-legged playoff, with the run of fixtures we've already got in the domestic campaign in February, for me, I want to get out inside that top 8. I made that clear at the start of the Champions League campaign. I thought the way the fixtures fell, it gave us a very good opportunity to do so. And at the end of the day, I just want to progress inside the top 8. And I would hope that there's no one out there wanting us to lose tonight so that Frank, gets the sack. Because to be honest with you, even if we do win tonight and stuff, I think the sack is coming further down the line at some point. So we don't need to sit here and wish for the team to lose for the sack to happen. But sorry, I mean, go on.
I was just about to say on that thing, me personally, and I know it goes against 99.9% of Spurs fans at the moment, I hope he wins tonight, and I hope he wins at the weekend, and I hope he wins next week, and I hope he goes on a winning streak and he keeps his job and he turns this around, because that will show that the belief that a lot of fans, and I wasn't one of them, had in taking Frank on at the beginning of the season. I hope they prove us all wrong right now, but all the ones that are doubting it and everything. I hope he turns it round, and I hope tonight is the start of that.
Yeah, look, I think there's many out there like you in that regard. At the end of the day, all we want to do is win games. No one wants to be sitting here and moaning, giving out, ripping people apart. We just want to win games of football at the end of the day. Last follow-up question to you. Soren, Tottenham have met Dortmund in the UEFA Champions League 4 times, and we have won all 4 of those games. So does that give you extra hope heading in?
I think circumstances are a little bit different tonight. We go on about when it's derby days and things like that, and form goes out a window and all this lot. And tonight is going to be an exceptionally hard game. And where I come out normally and say it's about playing well, putting on a performance and winning, tonight is just about winning. There's nothing else is important tonight. We need to come out with a win. If we can play well, brilliant. If 1 or 2 players show up, brilliant. Tonight is all about 3 points, making sure that we can qualify for the next knockout stage. And look, we had this last year. There's still a cup. There's still a cup available at the end of the season, lads. Let's just go and win the Europe, but Champions League. It could be on. It could be on. Back me up. It could be on, couldn't it?
No, I get what you're saying. Look, at the end of the day, last year, with the way we were playing the league, it's sort of, I was sort of sitting there going, sorry, you're deluded if you think we're going to win the Europa League. And we did. So I'm not going to sit here and make that same mistake this time around. I've learned my lesson in that regard for sure. But look, let's get down to Martin and Dermot. Let's welcome them in. Let's take some super chats and some chats from the chat. And then we're going to delve into Thomas Frank, because I've no doubt a lot of people have a lot of things to say. I mean, Dermot, on to you, my man. We'll go down to you. Where am I? Yeah, despite all the domestic struggles, Tottenham have won all 3 home Champions League games this season without conceding a single goal, which I find absolutely mad. I will say, though, Copenhagen and Slavia Prague were 2 of them fixtures as well at the end of the day. So is that proof that the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium can become a European fortress capable of inspiring a huge result tonight against a confident Dortmund side? Or is that record sort of misleading, masking problems that Dortmund are well equipped to maybe expose tonight?
23 games unbeaten. You're 23 games unbeaten for a reason, because you're making that a fortress. And for whatever reason, we can't do it in the league, but somehow in Europe, we've become this mighty force. We won the Europa League last year. Me and Soren did predict it early on. For all the pelters we got, we stuck to our guns, no matter what we thought of Ange. And to be fair, Soren, I don't think we're going to win the Champions League. I do. I will go so long on that train with you, mate, but then I have to bail out at some point. But look, if we get to the quarterfinals, I'm back on that train with you. Look, Dave, we're unbeaten at home for a reason, because maybe we're suited to European football at the moment. Maybe the way we play, maybe the way
Thomas
we've
Frank
been
says we're
set
not.
up.
We don't have a squad for it. That's what he keeps
Well,
telling.
Thomas Frank says a lot of things, and I don't listen to Thomas Frank anymore. He just bores me to death. I mean, he wants me to go and take out a bottle of whiskey and drink it. When Thomas Frank, I'd rather listen to Ange. I've been going back to Ange's press conference; they were more entertaining. But look, we're unbeaten at home for a reason because we do. And you are right, Dave. Copenhagen, we've had easy games at home as well. But you've got to beat who's in front of you. And that's what we've been doing for the last 23 games. But yeah, tonight's going to be tough. I think we'll win tonight as well. I'm backing the team to win tonight. I'll never back my team to lose. I can't. It's not in my nature.
Do you think that European record gives the players the belief heading into this game? Because there's one thing about maybe giving fans a bit of belief, but do you think it gives the players belief heading into this game?
Then that begs the question: well, how come they haven't got the belief to win in the Premier League? You can't just switch it on and off. You just can't go, oh, it's the Champions League. Yeah, I'm up for that. But I'm playing at home in the Premier League against West Ham. I'm sorry, I can't get up for that game. It's not a Champions League game. So I would be asking why they can't get up for all games. If us five are playing tonight, we'd be up for every one of them games. We'd be there 100% up for it. I don't get it, Dave. This team is like, you probably need all the brainiest people in the world to work out Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. Because you can't work them out.
What I will say to that record is I do think it's clear that we gave up Premier League football last year and just concentrated on the Europa League. And that's what sort of leads to that sort of record, making it so heavy one-sided in terms of being able to win at home in Europe, but not in the Premier League, But, this season, we haven't sort of sacrificed one competition for the other. But the European record still holds, which is absolutely amazing. But Dermot, look, I know you absolutely love this club. Do you think there's still something special about Champions League nights under the lights that still brings the best out of everyone around Tottenham Hotspur, or do you think it's going to be an absolute cesspit tonight?
Dave, we went there for the AC Milan match. The first time I met Jack in person was when we went to that AC Milan game under Conte, and believe me, you were shouting, ready to go and do your pitch invasion to run after Conte. I think Jack was there jumping around like a man. Not Conte. Who was it? Who you?
Sanchez.
Sanchez. That was it. That was it. So look, I think it always brings Champions Leagues are special. Any European game under the lights is special. It goes right back through our history, back to when we played Benfica back in '62, when we won, but we didn't make the final because we just lost that body of goal. It's been special every night we've played in Europe. Every night. It's special to play for Tottenham Hotspur, either in the Premier League or European nights, especially European nights. How many glory nights have we seen under them lights at White Hart Lane during the years? And winning in Europe is special as well. So whatever you think of the team, whatever we think of the manager, whatever we think of the players, we always should back the club no matter what. No matter what. Because the club is us. We are the club. Not the owners, not the players, not the managers, us, the fans. We are the football club. We're the soul of the football club. And we've got to get behind them. We've got to get behind the kids tonight. And you're right, Dave. If it doesn't go to plan, don't blame these kids. It's not their fault. Blame the owners. They're the problem. They're the issue at the football club. And I will end in this. Whatever you think of Thomas Frank, the way I look at this, I may not agree with him as a manager, but I feel sorry for him on a human level. And the club tonight, I'm sending that man out. It's like sending out a sheep to the slaughter tonight. And whatever
to do so, though, I'm not sure I feel too sorry for him.
I on the human level, I do. On the human level, I do feel sorry for him, because nobody should be subjected to that amount of abuse or people shouting at them because they're losing a football match.
He's not been subjected to abuse, though. He's just getting booed.
Yeah, but the club should not subject him to that. If they know this is going to make it toxic, then they should have took him out of it already.
Yeah,
I guess he's doing such a terrible job that it's like if you were a server or something like that, and you're just dropping every plate and every glass and every time you go out, and then they just keep sending you back out there. That's essentially
I get it.
like.
I know, I get what you're saying, but I think the club should be also be responsible also for
Yeah.
not making the decision or coming out making it clear what they're doing with Thomas Frank, because it's like Ange last year. It's rumbling on. Just pull the plaster off. After every game last year was Ange's going to get sacked. Is this the game? Is this the game? And then a year later, we're in the same cycle. So I think on the footballing side, I think he's not good enough for this football club. But on a personal level, I do have a bit of sympathy for him. On a human level, I do have a bit of sympathy for him.
No, look,
maybe I'm in the minority of that one, but that's how I feel.
No, look, I understand where you're coming from on that. And, look, to a degree, when I was sitting there watching the press conference yesterday, did I feel a bit sorry for him in terms of, someone sitting there trying to defend himself and his future and that? Yeah. Did Xavi Simons do enough to maybe defend him? No. I can get all that. But at the end of the day, I don't feel too sorry for him in a large degree. He came out and said, I'm not a loyal fan, blamed me for what's going on at this football.
No, I get that.
At the end of the day, he's going to walk away with probably, a massive payday, walking out with this football club as well. So I don't feel too sorry for him. If he's going to give it out to fans, then at the end of the day, he's got to take it when the fans give it to him. And as well, I'm not being funny, but I think one thing that everyone misses, when it comes to footballers, is that they know what environment they're walking into. They know that millions of people are going to have this say. They know there's going to be 60,000 people in a stadium that things don't go well are going to let them know about it. So, if they weren't cut out for it, then choose a different career path. That's the way I
get that
in that regard. But look, I'm not going to get stuck on about feeling sorry for Thomas Frank. I want to move on to Martin, and then we'll take some super chats and get stuck into Thomas Frank. Actually, Martin, Spurs currently sit 11th in the Champions League table, just 3 places and 1 point outside the automatic qualification spots. Given how tight the table is, how pivotal does tonight's match feel in shaping Tottenham's route in this competition? Is this effectively a make or break European night for this club, or is there still room for error later on? Like in terms of if we don't win tonight, do you still think we'll have a chance against Frankfurt in the last game to get inside the top 8?
Well, for me, it's one of them. We've had it a few times this season. If we just get this win, we're going to be up there. If we don't, we're going to be down there. All right. And it's just another scenario that we're in. And we haven't took any of them chances so far. So going on recent evidence, you'd have to say, no, it's not going to do us. But, if the players are fighting for him, which I don't believe they are, but let's assume that they are, and they don't want him to lose his job, and he doesn't want to lose his job, because at the minute, for me, it's just lip service. And, I was one of them that was happy with him coming in and what I thought he could bring. I got that totally wrong, but at the same time, I think he got it totally wrong and didn't, see what I was seeing. He didn't, where you see it, Dave, I don't think he had expectation. So, it's all right playing against, Premier League teams that he's played against before with that sort of mindset. But is this whole season for him in Europe is new to him. He's never done it. He crashes out normally in the Cups, the first round, the first go at it. So he's not used to playing these amount of games, 2-3 day turnaround with heavy pressure and, heavily scrutinised through it. So, forget the manager situation as it is. As fans, we must want us to win. I don't subscribe. I don't want him here, but I don't subscribe to the let's lose and get him gone. That's really, for me, it's not that. Like when people saying, I won't give Frank money to buy. We need players regardless, So I think tonight, if it lifts it, let's say he comes away with a 2-0, right? Like, as crazy as that sounds, I think, as I say, last year, that we could have said a 2-0 and we could have been quite confident in that. I'm just so beaten down of confidence to see that. But would I like to see it? I'd love to see it. And if he does do that, then that gives us that more glimmer of hope. At the minute, it's a chance, But if he wins tonight and we're going to next week, then there is a hope and a real chance of getting into that top 8. And I don't obviously think being in the other 16 for the playoff is a bad thing. But then you factor in where the games are going to be played, what fixtures we're going through, what it's going to mean then, it's just going to pile even more pressure on. So if we can get round it without having to do that, then yeah, that'd be great for us. Like as a club, as a fan base, as a team, as the players, as the manager, you know, it just gives everything a little bit of chance.
Well, it just keeps your season going, you know, into February then, you know, which sort of keeps a lot more people sort of on board. And to be honest with you, Frank does get out inside the top 8. You know, people have to be prepared for him to maybe keep his job then at that point, you know, and the club to maybe give him the chance to manage, you know, the qualifying round if we do get out inside the top 8. Martin, do you think the players are fully aware of what's at stake tonight, or does the noise around the manager and recent form sort of risk overshadowing the importance of this match?
Yeah, I reckon it's one of them. I think it's I think the club are using him as a shield, which we will get into later on the other segment. And I think also the players are getting away with it because there's so much anger going towards Frank, and everyone in the fan base is just focused on the Frank situation. And the players are getting away with it. And, you know, their excuse is, well, he's asking us to play this way. They've always got an excuse or a reason, however you want to word it, to do that. So, but strip all that away, personal pride, and they all say, like you see Xavi and all this, the Champions League means everything to them. Well, then put your differences with your manager aside and your club and whatever you got going on, and go out as a group of 11 men, not 25 now, and show us your personal pride and show us that you think you're a Champions League player and you want to play in the Champions League. Well, this is your chance to carry on playing in the Champions League. So it's on them. You know, tonight it ain't about Frank, it ain't about us, ain't about this is the players' time to shine and show us that they're serious and they think they are Champions League players and worthy of, if they don't want to be here next year and want to move away, they want to go to a Champions League club. So show that you are worthy of your Champions League spot.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And I'd hope the players don't follow through with their agenda. You're seeing reports, you know, and they've been coming out for a while now that they're not happy with Thomas Frank and stuff like that. But I hope they don't throw him under the bus tonight for their own cause. You know, this is a big night for Tottenham. It's a big night for the fans. You know, we want to get out inside that top 8. And last follow-up question for you, Martin. I mean, would securing automatic qualification change how this season is judged overall, given the domestic struggles? And do you think it'll change how maybe Thomas Frank is viewed if we get out inside the top 8?
Personally, from my point of view, I'm not going to speak for everyone. For me, no. And it's the same as I felt with the Europa League. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it doesn't erase the season for me. And you know, it's you know, what is it, August to May of living hell for one day. You would swap. Do you know what I mean? It's that I'm never going to write that Europa League off, and I don't want anyone to think that's what I'm saying. But you know, it was a 90-minute game, and our season we looked at last year because we won the Europa League and we had the big day out and everything else. But we could have easily so been Man United and been 17th with nothing, and then, you know, for that 90 minutes or that goal that we don't know if Shaw scored or Johnson scored. You know, it was just it was a great feeling, but was it a great game? And the fact that Ange and the club were prepared to go along and risk it the whole season on that, if they would have come out without winning it, it would have been so different, so different. That day at the Tottenham Stadium with the parade and everything else, I ain't going to do the old paper over cracks, but what it did, it gave everyone something. Yeah. And I think if we'd have lost that game, there's a feeling around the place. There wouldn't have been no question his hand staying for his third season. There wouldn't have been none of that. It changed the whole parameters in so many ways, from top to bottom, and players thinking. And I don't know. Listen, I'll never say I didn't want it, because of course I would. And, you know, fans at the beginning of last year saying, give me 17th and win us a trophy, I'll be happy. The reality of it wasn't as enjoyable as what they thought it was it?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely spot on there. And to be fair, I do agree with you. I do think it changed perception for a couple of months, you know, within the fan base and stuff, you know, but, you know, the minute we got back here, then all of a sudden, you know, you revert back to it and you look at it a bit differently again, which is absolutely madness. But look, I think if we do get out inside the top 8, I do think it buys Frank some time to maybe try and start getting back to winning ways for sure. But look, we'll get onto it. We'll take some chats here, and then we'll get stuck into, some of the stuff that came out in the pre-match press conference and, surrounding Frank's future and some of the reports in recent days and stuff like that. Big up Donovan, Canadian Spurs boy, member for 31 months. Good to see you, sir. Hopefully you're cracking on in the gym and having a good workout session. He says, getting myself nice and pumped up to have a picnic with Jackie boy in Greenland. Big up, lads. 11 fit players versus the world. We dig in for the siege. Jack, you might have a new holiday destination to go to soon.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, it's going to be a siege-like mentality today. I even said in the predicted lineup, Romero's going to be defending for his life this game, right? Some of the guys in the back line are going to have some of the best performances we've ever seen from them. And then hopefully, just hopefully, there's someone with a semblance of an idea in the attacking area to maybe nick a goal for us. But it is going to be like a storming the castle type situation for us. And we're going to have to defend it as best we can, Donovan. And if we do pick up a win, it'd be amazing to actually be talking about qualifying in the top 8, like Dave just asked Martin about earlier.
It'd be mad if we get out inside the top 8 the way this season has panned out. Absolutely mad. But big up, Donovan. Really appreciate the support, sir. And I'll see you at the weekend, my man. We've also got Terry Wright. He says Frank's going to battle with a water gun tonight. Absolutely spot on. Jacob Anderson, good to see you, sir. Says Theiris to bench the best player over the last 3 games. Lol. Still going to support the team, though. Come on, you Spurs. Well, it is something that, I've spoke about regularly, that when a player seems to be performing, all of a sudden they drop to the bench. And then what incentive does that give them then to keep performing? Like, for instance, Tella sort of, hasn't been amazing over the last 4 games, but it's probably been one of our best attacking players on the pitch. And then he gets taken out of the Champions League squad to accommodate a guy who hasn't been fit for nearly a season and a half. And, he took out Papa Matasar earlier on in the season, dropped Paulinho for a run of 5 to 6 games, dropped Dudabar off the back of a really good performance and that. And it's like, how do you ever expect to go and win games if you keep dropping players that are performing? And then it just sends out the message that, you're seeing what you're seeing on the pitch because you're doing stuff like that. Mediocre on the pitch and stuff. It's absolutely madness. What's the incentive to play well? You play well, you're going to ride the bench for 5-6 games. It's absolutely insanity. We've got Simon Coley in the building. Good to see you, sir. I've been down to the pound shop on the way home to get magnetic board. I feel like a proper coach now. Jack, would you going to do the same?
Well, we've been discussing this. There's no way they're doing tactics at this point with these magnetic boards. I think there might be checkers going on. Maybe they're doing takeout orders. Maybe they're doing some vision board planning or something like that for the year. It's just insanity to think that they're actually doing tactics for that long, or even, 21 minutes into the game against Aston Villa, and he's hauling Kevin Danzo over to do the tactics on the magnetic board. It's insane. It's insane, Simon Coley. But yeah, I think you're a proper coach. We'll be looking at you as interim manager for the rest of the season.
Honestly, there's been so much made of it. It's driving me absolutely insane. It's like the narrative last year was there was no tactics. So now all of a sudden, Sky cameras and everything are pointing to him every time he's holding a magnetic board, every time there's a fucking tablet out, thinking he's doing all these tactics and stuff, but nothing actually changes in game. So what the hell is he doing with all these boards? I think someone said it the other night, probably playing tic-tac-toe. If you beat me, you can come on the pitch. It's absolutely madness, Simon Coley, but good to see you, brother. And, hopefully your managerial career takes off now. Good to see you, my man. We've also got the 2 Mark Show member for 25 months. Big up, Mark Cook. Good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. He says, good evening, chaps. Hope you're all well as can be, my man. I mean, it's just tough times with Tottenham Hotspur at the minute and stuff like that. Every season now, it used to be every second season turns into turmoil. Now it seems to be every single season now at this rate, Mark. But good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. And everybody, make sure you get over and check out the 2 Mark Show on YouTube and smash them, subscribe over there as well. We've also got Harmless Potato, 1882, member for 15 months. And he says, hello, everyone. Come on, you Spurs. Good evening. Good to see you. And hopefully you're keeping well. I do love a good old potato now, to be fair. We've also got Faz 4-0. Spurs must be a reason for no mention of Thomas Frank in the Vinay letter. Anyone want to have a stab at anyone want to have a go at this? You on about the letter that was put in the pre-match program for the West Ham game?
Yeah. You could look at it a couple of ways. It could either be that Thomas Frank is here to stay, so there's no reason to mention him, or it could be that they're thinking about a possibility without Thomas Frank, so why would you mention him if he's only going to get sacked a week or 2 later after putting out that letter? You could look at it a few different ways, to be honest, Faz. I'm curious which way he's thinking about it. I'm thinking more the latter. I think that they didn't include Thomas Frank's name in case that he ends up getting sacked in a week or two, and then the letter would be
The letter,
null and void,
stays in
basically.
the sphere, doesn't it? The letter don't go away, and it's
Yeah.
a stick to beat them with, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It would be more embarrassing if they did include Thomas Franks in a minute. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I know some people are maybe asking the question, is Johnny Heitinga, already the interim replacement for Thomas Frank if he does get the sack, which would be absolutely madness given how poor he was at Ajax and stuff like that. But big up, Faz, good to see you, sir, and hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got Al Ben in the house, says, evening, with a battering, he is not getting sacked. Even with a battering, he is not getting sacked. Vinay takes footballing instructions from Langer and fellow Dane and Frank's very close friend. Look, I tried to highlight, for a long time about Johan Lang and his transfer dealings and stuff and his failures in the window. He's nowhere near good enough. And if he's the one we're taking directives off, then no wonder why we are where we are. But when it comes to Vinay, if you look at what he done at Arsenal, he stuck through Arteta through really, really difficult times with that Arsenal fan base. He didn't sack him. And I just wonder, is he trying to maybe take the same approach here with Thomas Frank, maybe trying to steer it through the storm, the oil rig through the storm, as Thomas Frank likes to call us now, doesn't even talk about football. Now he's comparing us to boats and yachts and everything else. It's absolutely fucking insane. But maybe this is what Vinay is trying to do here with Thomas Frank. But at some point, Thomas Frank has to help the guy out to start delivering some results. 3 wins in 15 games is nowhere near acceptable. And I would also argue, I think the Lewis family are trying to maybe do something to what Daniel Levy has done in years gone by and stuff, where maybe, you look at Nuno, for instance, he pulled the trigger on him at the end of October. If Levy was still in charge, Frank probably would have been gone in around the same time, to be honest with you. So I think, there's a big clamour inside the club to try and do everything different to Daniel Levy. But I think they're doing it with the wrong guy, personally. I don't think Thomas Frank just has the overall aura, the overall experience to really guide this football club, with the mess that it's in forward. So I think they're just trying to do it with the wrong guy personally, Al Ben. But good to see you in the building, and hopefully you're keeping well, my man. We also have Logan. He sent in another super sticker, Jacko. Maybe we're getting something different.
Some hearts. He's sent in some hearts. He's just being very, very kind to us. And thanks for the support during the roller coasters of Tottenham Hotspur at the minute, or as Dave liked to say in Thomas Frank's case, it's not roller coasters he's using metaphors for. It's sinking ships and Titanics and yacht cruises that he seems to be using as metaphors for. So appreciate the love, Logan. Thank you, man.
Big up, Logan. Very, very kind of you, my man. Very, very kind of you. I really do appreciate that. And we've also got Phil P in the house. Spurs are a mess. We are in this together, people. Absolutely spot on there, buddy. And we've got Mr. Paul Brown in the building. Good to see you, Paul. Good evening, gents. Any point asking the mood? Come on, you Spurs. Look, I think there's definitely a cause for optimism, Paul. We are 23 games unbeaten in Europe, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Despite our domestic struggles, 3 games this season at home, haven't conceded a goal and won all 3 of them. So there is cause for hope. However, when I was watching Sky Sports earlier, Michael Bridge was around the stadium interviewing fans. And ironically, there's a lot of Irish support over there tonight, believe it or not. And he ended up interviewing a couple of Irish fans. And they're split on it. Some are saying get rid of him. He shouldn't even be in charge tonight. And some are saying to give him more time and stuff. But look, I think by now, at this club, results dictate the mood, Paul Markey. And, I think it's fair to say overall, it's not great, given the run that we are on at this moment in time. But good to see you in the building, sir. Very, very kind of you last week with your generosity, grabbing yourself a membership and dishing some out to people as well. Very, very kind of you, my man. But guys, let's get into it. We have approached the point now. We spoke about the build up to the game. We have approached the point where we can't hide from it. We got to get stuck into some of the reports and that have come out in recent days around Thomas Frank. I'm going to start with the first one. We'll go to you on this one, Jack. Thomas Frank insists he feels the trust of the board after their last supper meeting, lunch there the other day, and believes this team is close to something good. I mean, I don't know what football he's watching. I think that statement concerns me even more. But despite the poor run of results and growing fan unrest, do you agree with that assessment, or does it sound increasingly detached from what we're seeing on the pitch?
I think he's been sounding a lot like Erik ten Hag when Erik ten Hag was pretty much close to the sack at Man United, where he's just sort of saying the opposite of what actually is happening with our own eyeballs. He's saying, oh, I'm getting nothing but trust. It was just a regular lunch, that I had with Vinay and Johan Langen. It's like, yeah, I'm not too sure if that's the case. And then he's also been saying things like, oh, the last few games, you can tell that, things are really churning around. You could see that there's really some football that's being played out there that we can get behind. It's like, yeah, I'm not too sure if that's the case, to be honest, for what we've been seeing. So it just strikes me as I don't. I would do the same thing if I were under immense pressure and not my team was losing and I was being asked questions. At a certain point, you almost do try to pretend as if you're seeing something totally different to defend yourself, to defend your own kind of reputation, really. So I think he's pulling a bit of a Ten Hag, in my opinion, in that he's just saving his own reputation by claiming he's seeing something entirely different.
Look, I get it from his point of view, right? If you are him, you have to sort of try and believe in yourself. You have to sort of back yourself, right? I can fully understand that. And probably even more so when you've got all the press coming in asking you why you're still in the job and everything else, you're probably going to be even more defiant and you have to try and, you know, give off some green shoots. But where I was getting sort of annoyed is I seen him sitting there asking for the fan support. Oh, the same fans that you ridiculed earlier on in the season. Now you want their support because you're in the mire. Too late. You're not getting it because of the way you acted earlier on in the season when results weren't going well and stuff like that. And honestly, I just think, you know, the stuff I'm seeing him say in the press conference, I can understand it from his point of view, but I do think it's getting more, you know, sort of increasingly detached from what everyone else is seeing at Tottenham Hotspur right now. And that does sort of hugely concern me. I mean, Martin, we'll head back down to you. Is there any realistic way back for Thomas Frank at Tottenham now, or has too much damage already been done? As the situation maybe become too toxic and fractured between the manager, the players, and the fan base to really recover, you know, this situation regardless of results? Because Thomas Frank believes he can.
I just can't see it when it like we've been in turmoil up and down, as you say. We've had that, and things have never been this bad. I'm 52, so I remember a good 45, 46 years of it, and it's just, this is bad, like as in supporter wise. So he might get the players on board, he might keep but I just can't see the fans going, oh, we got that wrong. Like as soon as you mention about wanting the fans back on side, how it gets to you, Dave, you're never going to forget that. In 10 years' time, you ask about Frank, your first thing go, well, he called me a shit fan, not a real fan. You know, it's things like that, and it's nothing to do with football. That a lot of it has turned the fans. Then you add to that the bad performances, the lack of grassroots, the lack of structure, the setting up to not lose instead of winning. And he said it again the weekend. You know, if we can't win the game, then don't lose it. What part of that game did you change anything to win that game? So what you're saying is, well, if the players don't do it for me, then I'm going to try not to lose it. And I just, you know, and the last few games, take out Liverpool, which ain't even a great Liverpool side at the minute. You know, Wolves took points off us. You know, Burnley might this weekend. We don't know. They drew, was it Liverpool they drew 0-0 with at Anfield the weekend? Right, West Ham, who we sat here and spoke about on Saturday, they're in trouble. And they come out and they was looking like prime Barcelona at times. You know, and they could have been 2-3, 4-0 up at half time, and we would have all had to put our hands up to it. What did he do when he see them going through? All right, let a goal disallowed, let a goal offside. But what did he do to change and say to people, this is where we're going? And you can't put Davis as your left wing because you like balance, and then you've got Udogie on the bench, and then you bring on, you throw your game plan up, out the window. Conor Gallagher never been injured or missed a day. 35 seconds he was down, and we're all thinking, here we go. Do you know what I mean? Like, lucky he got up. There's nothing there where he's proactive to do anything. And if he starts doing it now, then we're all going to go, well, why didn't you do that before anyway? Yeah. So he's just dug himself a hole, as in like his approach, his playing style, his mad substitutions at times, his crazy decision with Tel. Tel couldn't get in that Champions League, so we get him in for one match, and then now Dom Sankey comes back in, who's probably got 15 minutes in him, if that. And you're gonna wish. He already said in the press conference, Matty would have been a starter. So you're taking a starter out for someone who hasn't kicked a ball in 6 months. There's all these little things that if he was winning and we were doing all right, dropping Matty's tail to put Solanke in and we're a functioning team and we're playing front foot football, no one would question it. But when you're in that bottom thing and heading towards relegation, which we are, you know, it's it just polarizes everything so much for him. And I just can't see on a human level where people will just go, oh, I was wrong about him. He's doing right. I just can't see him getting that time to get to that point where he could prove us wrong. So good luck to him. I've got nothing personally against him. He seems a nice bloke, but, you know, it's like in that press conference yesterday, he was sitting there, and I don't think they should have put a player with him. You know, forget it was Chavy, but if you look at Chavy, the question is, I asked Chavy, well, what do you think you could have done about it? We're going to go get rid of this guy. Is it, what can he say to it? Do you know what I mean? It's so, it was all geared up to be horrible to Frank. Do you know what I mean? It's, I don't know, it's just a mess.
It's mind-boggling that they roll out Xavi Simons to defend Frank, even though he spent half the season on the bench under this guy. I think it's absolutely mind-boggling. And, you know, where's the captain? That's where you want to hear from your captain, you know, sitting in beside Thomas Frank. You want to see if he's going to sit there and defend him with any sort of passion and stuff like that. But look, we are going to get on to squad and that, you know, in a while, because although, you know, the squad isn't the greatest, although there is holes in it and we do need to keep recruiting better, 100% we do. But Thomas Frank has the worst winning record of any manager since 2008. Worse than Nuno, worse than Ange Postecoglou, you know, and other managers who Spurs fans just didn't rate whatsoever.
17% win rate or something mad, isn't it?
80%, you know, it's absolutely insanity. Like, this can't
That's crazy. That's worse than what we probably think it actually is.
Yeah. It's the worst record since 2008, you know, nearly 20 years. It's absolutely insane. And for me, there is no way back. When you're losing that amount of games, when you've lost the dressing room, which I do think he clearly has, when you've lost the fan base, which he clearly has, and he's also starting to lose the media, by the way. The media have protected Thomas Frank up to this point because he's a nice guy and gives them all of his time. But even they're starting to turn on him now and ask more tougher questions. Everybody's turned on the guy. And for me, I just don't see.
Can I just quickly say that?
Happens the way back unless he starts winning regular games.
He said in that press conference after the Saturday game, we're nearly on the verge of greatness or something. And I'm just like, I find myself just sitting there talking to the telly. I'm just going, no, you don't. Like, I'm losing the plot over it. It's I ain't the most sane person in the world, but he is just driving me bonkers at the minute.
To be honest with you, I was this close to headbutting my telly, and then I realised it's probably going to cost me about €400, €300.
Exactly.
It's not a good idea. But look, we'll take a couple more chats here, and then we'll kick on, and we'll get Dermot and Soren involved on the Thomas Frank chat. Sean Hurl says Frank doesn't get the job without Johan Lang. Danish dunce is out. Look. I think that definitely Johan Lang is doing his best to sort of protect Thomas Frank for sure. Then we've also got Adrian Chia. Big up, lads. Anyone remember the last time we won?
Crystal Palace, but I can't believe we won that game. It was like we got dominated by Crystal Palace, and somehow we came out of it 1-0. I think that was the last one, and then there was probably a long wait before one before that too. I think we've only won one game in 2026. Is that correct? Only one game we've won?
Yeah. Absolutely madness. It's absolutely madness, Adrian Chia. Like I said, 3 wins in 15. I mean, it's just nowhere near good enough, my man. Nowhere near good enough. We've got DB in the house. Mixed feelings about tonight. Resent the board for making me feel like this. If we win, he stays. It seems. Yeah, I think that's the case in that regard. I think if he wins tonight, he sees Burnley on the weekend, you know, and probably, you know, if he can get out inside the top 8, we'll be here for them Champions League fixtures on that one, DB. But you're definitely right about the board for sure. We do have a man brave enough to go to tonight. Yeah, good evening, lads. Going to the game tonight, feeling down and hurt. South Stand, come on, you Spurs. Well, enjoy yourself in there, Janola. I know there's about, I think, 300-400 tickets snapped up around the singing section in the South Stand that haven't been snapped up. So that's going to be fair sparse. I mean, it's going to be embarrassed when you see that South Stand absolutely empty, because that's the stand that everyone wants to get into, which I suppose shows, you know, how little inspiration, you know, there is behind this project. Al Ben says he talks up the board every press conference and they're buying it. I think there's certainly an element to that for sure. You know, we get questioned all the time, but he doesn't question the board, which is absolutely insanity, even though they're the ones that are in charge of bringing in players to help the situation. DB says stress affects your judgment. And if I draw a stressful looking face, it would be a drawing of Frank's. But no, 100%. Look, when you are under stress and, you know, stuff like that, and things aren't going your way, you're more prone to making errors and stuff like that, because you're in the mindset where you're like, well, everything I know, isn't working. So I'm going to have to start maybe taking stabs in the dark or changing things up and stuff like that. And then you just become further detached from what actually got you here in the first place. So I definitely agree with that, DB. You're absolutely spot on. I mean, Soren, we'll head to you, my man. I mean, reports suggest Thomas Frank's job is now hanging by a thread. He's been booed repeatedly. Fans have openly sung sacked in the morning, like we've seen against West Ham to him. And Spurs have won just 7 of 22 league games this season. And we were out of both domestic cup competitions and have managed only 1 win in the last 8 matches. I mean, are you surprised that Thomas Frank is still in the dugout tonight? And ultimately, I still think he's the right man moving forward for this football club.
Yeah, I am surprised he's still in a job. For the simple reason, obviously, the pressure to the board for getting rid of him is absolutely immense. Do I think he is the right man going forward? From the very beginning, I've said I didn't think he was the right manager. All that being said, he is the manager. He still is the manager. And I think he'll be the manager for a little bit longer yet. Look, it's a real awkward one with it. If we go back 6 months, a year, all these fans calling for Frank out were calling for Ange out, and it didn't matter who came in. Anybody was better because Ange was clueless. He didn't know how to run a football club. He didn't know how to pick a team. He had no charisma. He had no this. He had no that. We got a manager in that was supposedly going to be the new messiah, and he's been even worse. And I have never been one really to attack the board and all this lot and attack the club in the sense of it. But you've got to look at it. It's a bigger picture than the manager. The manager isn't doing it. I'm not trying to make excuses for him. And the players certainly aren't doing it. But it's the same story. He's telling me to look at history. Well, everybody look at history then. It's the same owners. The only thing we did was we got rid of the face of Tottenham, which was Daniel Levy. Nothing's changed. We got rid of Ange. Nothing's changed. Conte, who everybody tells us made a great speech, told us exactly, it doesn't matter about changing the manager. Nothing will change. We're at the point where nothing will change. If we get rid of Thomas Frank now, nothing will change. The only thing that people are hanging on to is bringing Poch back, because it will unite the fan base. It will stop us having a go at the board, that's all the board want, and the owners. They don't give a shit. All they want us to do is stop booing and then turn up for the matches, which Poch will. Will he succeed? No, I don't think he will. Nothing will change at the club until we get new owners. That said, going back to Thomas Frank, I hope he puts the 11 players that we've got, 11 players, and everybody's going on about Matisse Tell. And you know, Dave, I've backed that lad from the beginning. Now, you are now talking about third choice left winger or your first choice striker. Which one do you want in your team? Long term, you're always going to pick Solanke. The only reason everyone's throwing the toys out the pram at the moment over Matisse Tell is because it's another pop at Frank. All it is, it's another pop at Thomas Frank. Does he deserve it? Probably. Is it a shit on Matisse Tell that he's not in the squad? Yes, it is. Is that Thomas Frank's fault? No. It's the owners and the board's fault yet again for not giving us enough right players to fit into the squad. We haven't got a full squad because we haven't got enough homegrown players, or we've got too many foreign players, or whatever you want to, whatever it is. It's not necessarily the manager's fault. It's the bloody board yet again. Now, Matthias Tell, yeah, he is a good little player, but nobody wanted him a few weeks ago. Everybody was telling us how shit he was. And then all of a sudden now he's the best player in the team when he should be in the squad. People need to take a good look at each other and realise that all we're now doing is jumping on a bandwagon to get rid of the manager, which doesn't matter what he does, doesn't matter if we go out and beat Dortmund tonight 5-0, it'll be the same as under Ange. It wasn't the manager, it was the players, or it was this, or it was that. Every excuse under the book. Should Thomas Frank go? Yes, he probably should. But he is still the manager. he is still the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, and he has still got my backing until the day he's gone. Do I want him? No, I don't.
I think you're on mute, Dave.
No, I was going to say, look, absolutely fair. We will get on to Matisse telling Dominic Solanke situation, you know, in just a bit. But I'll be brutally honest, you know, I think after West Ham game, I am very, very surprised that Thomas Frank is still in the job. I mean, Dermot, you know, has it been kept on because the board still genuinely believe in him, or because there's no clear replacement ready to step in, or because they're fearful that if they make the interim change that we could end up getting relegated if it doesn't go right, or maybe it's just too expensive to sack him? Why do you think, you know, he's still here?
Look, we're not getting... Yeah, well, look, I want him gone, yeah. And look, I was one of the fans in the summer. Look, I loved Ange. It's okay. I think I want to say this first before I get to your question. We as fans have to stop attacking fans. I get it. We're angry at the moment. I get it. We're frustrated. I get it. It doesn't matter if you're Frank in at the beginning of the season or you're Ange out, whatever. We all should come together because we support Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Doesn't matter who's the manager in the dugout. Doesn't matter about the players on the pitch. It matters we support this, the crest on our chest, that we follow week in, week out. It doesn't matter who's in charge, who's not in charge. And we've got to stop attacking each other. Or we've got to stop saying, you know, just because I'm Ange out or I'm Frank out, you get the club you deserve. I'm getting it last night that because what I was saying, I've got the club I deserve. I hate that nonsense. That's all bullshit. We all support football and we have to come together. We've been fractured for too long. And we have to come together. On Thomas Frank, look, I think I'm surprised Thomas Frank's still here, Dave, but I think my reasoning is, A, it was a too tight around between today's game and Saturday's game. And also, I don't think Spurs have a clear idea who the replacement's going to be, who they want to put in. They could put in the Ajax fella who was shit at Ajax, and I think, Dave, even you said that. He said that earlier in the stream. I don't think he's the answer. I think if you look at Celtic, the other club I love, we had Martin O'Neill came in after Rodgers left, done a brilliant job. We brought Nancy in, totally cocked everything up, and then we've ended up bringing Martin O'Neill back in, which is mean that Celtic are going to win the league. So, you know, we got to get the appointment right. And thirdly, on Thomas Frank himself, Thomas Frank, for me, I just think this is too big of a job for Thomas Frank. This is too big of a club. If you're a club that you want to stay in the Premier League, you want to stay up, you want to just every season, your objective is to stay in the Premier League. Thomas Frank's your man, and he will do that day in, day out. We need a big club. We need a big time manager at this football club. Somebody who's got the desire to win. Somebody who's got the desire to win competitions. Somebody's got the desire that he can manage in all competitions. And we've lost that. And who's that fall down to? The board. It's the owners. We've had 25 years of them running us badly. And just because Daniel Levy's left and Vinay and Viv and Charlie, and we've got Vinay in, it doesn't mean one damn bit of difference because it's going to be the same crap being served up. And just lastly, Simon Jordan said something on TalkSport the other day, which I totally agree with. We've got two number twos running the football club. We've got a number two to Daniel Levy running the football club, making decisions, and we've got a number two doing the transfer market. Do you know? And what's happened to our transfer window? That's suddenly just gone to the buy side because of all of this. So the board are getting it both ways. They don't have to spend money on players, and and we've got a manager in crisis. We're a mess, but I'd support this mess to the day I die. I support the football club.
Yeah, look, for me,
sorry.
No, you're all right. Look, we should always support the football club. You know, that's something I'm always trying to say to people. But for me, look, when it comes to Thomas Frank, I think, yeah, there needs to be a lot directed at the ownership, on how badly it's gone. 100% they deserve it, and I would like to see people protest until they sell, every single week. But in order for that to happen, fans have to turn up in numbers. No point of everyone sitting around moaning if you're going to the game and you're not going to turn up to the protests and stuff, because then it just, in Enix's eyes, they're like, well, what's the point of taking notice of it? It's tiny. You know what I mean? Then you look at the playing squad, is it up to par? No. But no manager at Tottenham has ever had a full playing squad. But the difference is other managers have got better, and being able to paper over some of the cracks and stuff like that. And when you look at Thomas Frank's win percentage as Tottenham manager, 18%. I think the next lowest is something like 50%. When he's gone after the fan base the way he has, and it's clear that he's not inspiring these players. And if you can't inspire the players, how do you ever expect to be able to turn around the situation? And when you look at the way Spurs fans want their football to be played, when you look at the club motto, does Thomas Frank live up to that? No. The motto is to dare is to do. We've had other managers that have come in and they've backed themselves. They says, look, no matter what mess you're in, I'm going to be the guy to turn it around. And it inspires people for a length of time. This guy came in. He didn't even back himself walking in here. I guarantee you we're going to lose games. So if he's not backing himself walking in here, and this is off the back of Europa League, how does he expect anyone else to get inspired and be behind him? I understand that this club is a mess and that Thomas Frank isn't the issue for absolutely everything going on at this club. That's something I tried to highlight underneath Ange Postecoglou when he was playing for injuries. He's playing for this. He was playing for that. I told everybody, it's a slippery slope to go down. Because if things happen under the next manager, where do you go from there? Who are you going to blame? And this is the point we're at right now. So not everything is Thomas Frank's fault. And I do urge people to sort of understand that even if he goes, there's still other issues that we need to pursue as fans to try and get sorted out. But he's not helping the situation and he's dragging it down and making it worse. And for me, he has to go. He's just not cut out for this level. His tactics are basic. He's never had to manage a fixture schedule like this, and he's clearly struggling with it. And it was a gamble in the first place. And he has not lived up to the reputation that he's had in the media or that even a lot of fans gave him when he walked into this football club. And he certainly hasn't earned the right to stay on and manage any more games if results keep going this way. 3 wins in 15. Last year, I had people coming in here going, Dave, where's the standards? Standards, get this guy gone. Okay, well, this guy's worse. So fucking apply them same standards to him and get him gone out of this football club. He's just not the right man to take this club forward. It's even getting to the point now where people are ringing in TalkSport and giving the likes of Simon Jordan and Jim White backlash because of how much they hyped up Frank when he came in here and stuff like that. It's clear this guy is not cut out for the size of the job. He wants to bring us so far down the table so he can manage one game a week like he did at Brentford and sit there and go, look at me, what amazing fucking job I'm doing. I'm sorry. I don't want this club to come out of Europe or fall down the league to suit this guy. It's up to him to raise his standards for this football club, and he's absolutely failed. And based on absolutely everything, he needs to go. When you lose someone like Mickey van de Ven in the dressing room, who wouldn't say boo to a goose, rarely kicks up any fuss, rarely kicks up any trouble. I mean, what hope have you got? If the players aren't playing for you, you have no hope of turning it around. So I do think the club, at this point, there's no guarantee the next guy or the intern's going to come in and sort of, things are going to change. There's no guarantee on that. But when we're heading down one way and you look at the fixtures we've got coming up in February, under this guy, does anyone believe we're going to pull any points out of any of them games in February? Newcastle, Arsenal, teams like that under this guy? I don't. So I think the club have put themselves in a situation because they fucked it up in the summer and didn't go after a guy of a certain caliber that could steer this club forward. They now have to roll the dice because if they don't, we're going down one way. And even this is something I pointed out earlier on the season. Everyone said, Dave, hold belief. It's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. I'm still waiting, and we're coming out the back end of January now. So it just goes to show what way this is going. And for me, he's got to go. Jack, Martin, anything you guys would like to add?
No, summed it up very well there, Dave.
I think done a good job there, Dave. Just for me, I totally agree with Soren and you. With the problem ain't Frank. He is part of the problem, but it's them who hired him that have put him in that position, and now they're using him as a shield. And my theory is
100%.
They was hoping he was going to beat West Ham. Then if he wins tonight, and then if counting on them beating Burnley the weekend, then by then, but then they know the fans don't trust him. The fans are getting sacked in the morning. The more that goes on, the anger is aimed at Frank. And where are the signings? Where are we talking about signings? Where they're getting away with it. And in their letter that he wrote out, he went, We're looking at a big summer. So he's already told you, we're not looking at this window. Frank's come out on numerous occasions and saying, we're trying, we're looking. We've identified 6 in this position. Well, I guarantee you, 6 of them you've picked ain't realistic targets that are going to come to this club in this mess. So then what will happen, if he wins tonight, he gets another game, and he wins Burnley, and then we get a draw against Frankfurt. All of a sudden, January's done, and we go, well, you fans wanted him out. We ain't going to give him no money. You know, you've wanted him out. Now we're going to sack him. The window's over. We're going to put, I just think it's, you know, they are fully to blame for everything that has happened over the last decade of this decline. But the managers at the forefront, you know, Conte come out and said what he had to say, and he told us all then. And as you see him as a Chelsea man coming out and slagging your club off, you're a bit, ooh. But at the same time, you know he was telling us the truth and giving us the insight to it. Hodge done it at the end and went, don't ask me, I'm just the head coach, I ain't the manager. And they're all trying to do it. And then you've got these ones sitting here. Apparently, there's a Lange was brought to tears by one of Frank's PowerPoints. Like, what are we really doing here?
That's a troll account.
Was it fake?
Yeah, that's fake.
I hope it was, because I just read that and I thought, wow, if this is it. But I'm so down in that point where I thought, well, I believe it. It's believable though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. That's the crazy part, that something like that, I was like, oh, it can't be real. But why have I going to think anything different? It's just, I think that strategically the board are playing and using Frank to not spend money, because we bought Gallagher because Bentancur's gone, but we've only used Johnson's money. We've spent nothing. Nothing.
The thing is, Martin, and this isn't an excuse. I know it'll probably sound like one, but it's not. We talk about Thomas Frank and we talk about the level he'd got to. And when you go from the club he was managing to the club he's now managing at Tottenham, it's a big step up. Now, that's where the board and the people have to do their due diligence and say, do we think this guy is capable of stepping up? Because when you come into a club like Tottenham, it's a lot more pressure. It's a massive job. Well, it's not saying it's a massive club. I'm saying it's a massive job.
Yeah.
And the pressure put on you, it's going to take time for him to settle in. Now, that aside, most of the fan base have been telling us all season that this squad is not good enough. It's a shit squad. It's so crap. But yet we expect to be winning every game. And look, I'm the same. I get slaughtered because I tell us we're going to win every game. So I'm just as guilty as anybody else. But if you look at it and you think Thomas Frank has stepped up from playing, like you say, 1 game a week to now playing Champions League, to now playing FA Cup. And we've got the board there saying we want to compete on all 4 stages. We haven't got a squad big enough or good enough to compete on all 4 stages. Last season, we had to sacrifice the Premier League to win a cup, and we won the cup.
We're not even competing on one stage, though, sorry. Not one.
Pardon?
That's the problem. We're not even competing on one stage this season.
No. Well, we are, in a sense. If we go and win tonight, obviously a big if, we're competing at the Champions League. You know, everyone's going on about, oh, we beat Bodo, blah, blah, blah. We lost to Bodo and we did this and we did that. City are losing to them 2-0 now. City, this team that we would love to be. We would love to have the history over the last 5-10 years. But I'm not trying to say that it's not Thomas Frank's fault, because a lot of it is. But we've got to look at the big picture and say he hasn't got a good enough squad. He is absolutely ravaged with injuries. You know, the same injuries Ange was last season and the season before, but it was all Ange's fault. So it must be Thomas Frank's fault now. He must be doing something in training or whatever it is. We've had this discussion so many times. But the club is just broken. The club is absolutely broken, and it doesn't matter who we bring in now. It's not going to get any better until these owners are either gone or they do what they promised us in the summer and they put some money into this club. We're all sat here now. I think, like you say, the board are absolutely pissing themselves because they don't have to spend a penny now this window. They don't have to back Thomas Frank in case he's gone. They're not going to back the next manager because they don't know who it's going to be. It's absolutely perfect scenario for them. And then we're going to go into the rest of the season with the same squad, the same players who aren't good enough, but yet we're all expecting them to be top 4, top 5, tops. And I'm one of them. I'm not blaming anybody else. I'm as much to blame. I keep saying top 4, top 5, but
this is the thing, though.
We're absolutely fucking deluded, all of us.
I get what you're saying, but this is the thing, though, Soren. No one came into this season with expectation of top 4. Very few fans. Most people said, just get us any sort of European space, position, or at least compete for it, and we'll be happy coming out of it. We're sitting in 14th. We won 3 games out of 50. Now I get what people are saying about the squad. Is it a perfect squad? No. Did I warn this was going to happen when you let Kane and Son go without replacing them properly? Yeah, of course I did. You can't tell me we don't have a good enough squad to beat Brentford, to beat Bournemouth, to beat Sunderland, to beat Wolves, to beat West Ham.
Dave, Sonny wasn't good enough. Everyone told us last season he had to go, and now everybody wants him back, saying we're missing him. We're all going. No, but we're all going round in circles. Every single one of us. We're all saying last season Ange wasn't good enough. He's the worst manager ever. Anybody could take over from him, and now all of a sudden, I'm not saying people want Ange back.
I think everyone.
I think Dermot needs to talk.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second. I think this is the thing, though. Everyone's sitting here going, Thomas Frank, Ange, squad. But is it just the case that Thomas Frank and Ange were just never good enough managers in the first place, right caliber managers, to actually push this club on or push this squad on? And that's why it's looking like it is what it is now. For me, like when you had the likes of Jose, Conte, they didn't have perfect squads, but they kept us to a certain level. And that's where I'm sort of the opinion. Right, both guys just aren't good enough to be able to manage all once at Premier League level. But I think when people go after the squad, I can guarantee you at least 70% of them people weren't given the squad as an excuse last season. It's just an excuse to defend Thomas Frank at this point. And I'm absolutely fed up with it. But if we actually take ourselves out of the immediate and look at it objectively, both managers just never had the CV at this level to really take this club forward.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that.
I just
Dermot, I think you need to go though, right?
Yeah, I do. I just want to add one thing, just to what you said, Dave, about the squad, and it got me thinking. And Soren said something similar. The only difference between this season and last season was the squad were willing to run through a brick wall for Ange. They would have ran to Scotland and back for that manager. They don't want to do it for this manager for whatever reason. And that was the difference. There was a togetherness within the dressing room. It was all of us were in it together. There was that tightness together. How good or bad the squad is, Ange had a way of bringing everyone together and united them and going on one front. Thomas Frank hasn't got that because he's whatever he's done in training. And you're right, Dave. Mickey van der Ven, he's the quietest of all the squad. As you said, he wouldn't say boo to a goose. Even he's coming out and dissed him at Chelsea. He's coming out, wants to sign a new contract because Thomas Frank's there. So you are right. Ange and Thomas Frank probably weren't great managers for this football club. We have had winners in the past. But if you do look at last season, one thing that Ange has over Thomas Frank, he knew how to unite a dressing room. He knew how to keep all them players together. Even when we were losing 22 league games in the league. And we did win the Europa League. We won a trophy last season. We ended up European champions. And as bad as the season was, we ended up winning something. Because he knew how to keep that squad together and united. Thomas Frank doesn't. We are so divided in that dressing room. And it is so sad to see. But yeah, I'm going off. Sorry, I didn't mean to rant on. Sorry, but I just had to... I do know. I just saw that it was just something you said and Soren said just made me think of that. You know, and as bad as Ange was, and as bad as Frank is, I think Ange would season 3 would have been better under Ange. I think it might have been, but we will never know. That's the $64 million question.
But we didn't want to know. Is the point? That's,
that is fair. Yeah, that is fair.
You look at it now, and we got rid of Sonny, who's been one of our main goal scorers, creators and all this lot. And then we've now got rid of Brennan Johnson, who was the top scorer last season. And we've got Richie, who injured more often than he plays. And when he does play, he'll score a few and then he'll miss a few. And We've got Solanke, who, since he's been with us, hasn't been prolific. So, you know, we haven't got anybody that freaking score goals. This is the problem with this club now, that, you know, we were all on about getting Vlahovic last season. You know, me and Dermot were shouting, and everyone's telling us, well, he's not going to do it in Premier. He's going to do better than bloody Mawani is. What's Mawani scored? 3 goals this season. Well, what frigging good has he been?
Yeah, but this is what it comes back to, Sonny, isn't it? Like, we knew Sonny was going, and they was quick to sell Johnson at the beginning of the window. But what have the club done to at least replace, let alone improve, not at all improve, just to replace them numbers? And then Kudus goes down. Right? How long's Kudus been? It must be 10 days now. We ain't had one sniff of anything. They replaced Bentancur, but that was, you just start swapping, you know, one player for another on money side. I don't quite work like that, but they've not, you know, we've been all season, we've got to get a left winger because Sonny went and we didn't do it in the summer. We've rolled up the Christmas, everyone going, right, you know, winter's coming soon, winter's coming soon. The window's closing soon. We ain't done nothing to sort the left. Now we've lost the one player we didn't want to play and the one player we did play. We've lost both of them. So now you're potentially 3 players down because Gallagher's only replacing the injured Bentancur. So you're instead of looking for the one left winger, we're now looking for 3 players just to get back to where we started.
Well, that's the problem, though, Martin, isn't it? You know, the club never strengthened from a position of strength. We're always reactionary from a position of weakness, and that's one of our big problems. And that's why I urge everybody, even if they do end up sacking Frank, don't stop there and just think everything's going to change and Tottenham you've got to keep going after that board. You've got to keep putting pressure on that board. And the reason why I say that, even if you don't want them gone, you got to put pressure on them to start delivering players, to start doing more for this football club, start sticking their neck on the line, put their money where the fucking mouth is. They keep sending people out with lip service and letters. Put your money where your mouth is. Lip service is one thing, actions is everything. And they are not producing the actions behind the lip service. And that's what grinds my gears. And that's why I think people, regardless whether you're Thomas Frank in or out, need to also go after that board. You know, they, at the end of the day, they're wet behind the ears, you know. Everyone says they know how to run a business. They don't. Their daddy made all the decisions along with Daniel Levy for years.
They're in jobs they're never going to get sacked from, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Let's be fair.
Exactly. They're not used to making these sort of cutthroat decisions or being in the limelight, having their name in the limelight. And I think that's why Thomas Frank is still here, because they're very hesitant to pull the trigger. You know, they're using Thomas Frank, as Martin said, as a shield for them. They also don't want to have to pay the 18 to 20 million that's reported to get rid of Thomas Frank and the coaching staff, which then decreases your transfer budget and everything else. It's just one big shit show and one big shambles. And then if you do sack the manager in January, how do you expect to get players to sign on here? And they don't know who they're going to be playing under.
Can we, if we run with that theory...
Sorry, I just got to go. I'll speak to you later, guys. See you later.
See you later.
Right.
Good, my man. Thank you.
Yeah, if we go with that scenario, like I said, that they're using him as a shield and they're trying to get to the end of Jan so they don't spend money, and they keep Frank because he's beat Dortmund and he's beat Burnley, right? But then it all comes back to normal and we start losing again and we're going on this run down. If we get anywhere near, like we're 10, 11 points from West Ham, but look at our February and on our, who says we're going to get more than 4 points? Right, 4 points I think's ambitious. Right, so if we don't get there and West Ham pick up a win and a draw, that's that close. Do you trust this manager and these players in the mindset they're in with the instructions they're getting to get us out of a dogfight? I'm worried. I'm seriously worried. It's only the month of February will determine our season, and it's either us or West Ham going down. And imagine if they stay up and we went down.
If we get pulled into a dogfight, we're fucked, because there's already a lot of players clamoring to get out of here. They don't have the heart and passion to keep this club up the way we do. And I certainly don't believe Thomas Frank has the tactics or anything else to be able to keep this club up. You know, so if we get pulled into that, we are absolutely fucked. Our only saving grace is we have some maybe fixtures that are more winnable coming out of February that you would hope 5 or 6 points out of them will keep you above that. But right now, you know, the way things are going, it's just we are forced into, we have to make a change. We have to. We have to try something as a football club. At the end of the day, they got it wrong.
If you get a couple of wins and a draw in February, that would be amazing. And then it all changes. But as I say, it's the club put us here, And if they go down, then they're definitely not going to sell because their asset goes down. And do they not realise the impact of that? By not spending 150 million this window, and we get the risk of going down, they're going to lose $1.5 billion off their asset.
To be honest,
what are they doing?
To be honest with you, though, I think they're clever in that regard because they're building bricks and mortar. They're building a hotel. So whatever they lose on the football value inside, they're building up in the bricks and mortar side. So it's going to retain that value. The football just doesn't matter to them. That's their whole business proposition. You know, Enoch, you know, if you go and look at some of the businesses they're into building and investment and all that sort of stuff, you know, so regardless of what they lose on the football side or what is perceived losing value on the football side, they're gaining in all the bricks and mortar that they're building and stuff like that. But look, let's get on to the playing squad. I mean, reports do suggest, Jack, there is a growing dissatisfaction among the players with Thomas Frank. For many fans, this feels uncomfortably familiar. Another manager under pressure, another dressing room, losing belief. If Thomas Frank goes, do you genuinely believe a new manager gets more out of this squad? Or are we once again watching the players sort of outlast the coach, another coach, with Spurs simply repeating the same cycle?
I mean, I'm willing to have discussions about potentially the squad not being good enough to really challenge for top 4, even potentially within the top 6. I just refuse to believe that with some of the players that we do have to pick from, that we're, you know, supposed to be in 17th or 18th, like some people make it out to be. I do feel like this team, at the end of the day, we do have better players than the majority of the teams that are ahead of us in and around maybe as high as 8th or 9th position. Like, do we really think that every player in Brighton's squad is better than us? Do we really think every player in Everton's team is better than us? Sunderland, Fulham, like Fulham have been playing far better football than us this season. The end of the day, Crystal Palace as well, like they're losing players left and right, and yet they still have found a way to still be better than us in the majority of this season. West Ham, the way they absolutely dominated us, West Ham, do they really think that West Ham have a better team than us? I think they're absolutely terrible and they almost deserve to go down, West Ham, but they made us look like absolute mugs, you know, in the recent games. So I mean, I just feel like the squad isn't good enough, but it's clearly being made to look even worse by the manager at this moment in time. And that's where I'm kind of at this stage, where I feel like, yes, we should be asking serious questions at the end of the season of like, yeah, you know, maybe I like this guy. Maybe I, you know, want to root for him, but he's potentially not good enough for where we really want to be. I would be willing to have those difficult conversations about a lot of these players. Don't get me wrong, but I refuse to believe that they are somehow where we are right now in 17th, 18th position. Like they are better than that. And I think it's only down to even just like what I disagree completely with what Soren said earlier about Kolo Muani. Kolo Muani displaced Vlahovic when he went over to Juventus. He actually took his spot in the starting lineup. Kolo Muani scored goals wherever he's been, whether it's at Frankfurt, went to PSG, then went on loan to Juventus, did fantastically at Juventus. So to act as if like Kolo Muani somehow isn't a good player, even though he's a starting player in the French national team, which is one of the most difficult, you know, national teams to get into. And then you also look at Xavi Simons. I agree that Xavi Simons is young. He can be frustrating at times. He is literally the most creative player in that Dutch national team. He's the guy that they look towards as the maverick to be creating things in their midfield. And you look at plenty of these other guys. Romero is supposed to be in the next few years, supposed to be a starting captain for the Argentinian national team, a World Cup winning side. Van de Ven is the next guy to be lined up against Van Dijk, you know, as the new defender for that team.
£600 million defender, Jack.
So there are incredible players in this. I mean, Jed Spence is now a full-fledged England international that is about to be lined up as potentially being one of the starting fullbacks in the England national team. There are good players in this team. Even in the case of Matisse Tell and Odegaard, like they are literally starting players week in, week out in the France under-21 team, which you might say is probably the biggest talent pool of any national country in the world at the minute in terms of their under 21s. Like they have under 21 players who start for Manchester United. They have under 21 players who start for really high level outfits. And Odegaard and Tell are their main guys in that team. They're some of the main goal scorers and the main creators. I just refuse to believe that this team is as bad as Thomas Frank has made it out to be. And to a degree, in the case of Ange too, I think Ange also kind of at times made them look a lot worse than they actually were, especially in the defense. We were conceding so many goals under Ange that I was like, there's no way that the defense is as bad as it's being made out to be. So I agree with your points earlier, Dave, that maybe it's just a case. We've just hired two managers that just aren't actually good enough at getting the most out of the whole squad.
But also, I think people have to understand, if the players and your playing squad isn't inspired by your manager, their performances will drop a little, which will make them look worse than what they are and stuff like that. If they're fighting for a common goal and they're fighting for the manager, you will see the very best out of them. And I don't think they're enamored by Frank's tactics. When you're spending a whole year, a whole 2 years of the previous manager telling you, you just go out and perform, I'll take all the blame in the press conferences, this, that, and the other. You keep playing the way I'm asking you to play. Even if you make mistakes, it's on me. And they're told to go out there and be brave. And then all of a sudden, you 360 it and you bring in a manager and you're sitting down in meetings for hours at a time, and he's hammering into you how good Wolves are and how much you have to respect them. Same with the likes of West Ham and teams like that sitting down in the relegation zone. And then he sets up accordingly going into the match. Your squad's already going into the game demotivated. Already, and that makes it look worse than what it is. And like I said, there's many problems at this football club, but Thomas Frank is making it look worse, and he's dragging us down even further. Anyone else want to come in on the players and that there, Martin?
Sorry, before I forget, do you think there's a possibility? I won't speak for you. I think we're not being coached and we're not seeing it. But do you think there's a point where, as you say, Dave, where they're sitting in these meetings and there's too much information going on and there's too much what he's trying to do, that all their natural flair and ability and be able to get run, instead of going like Cherry picking up the ball and going, I'm just going to whip that in there, he's thinking, no, I've been told this. So and by then you've lost that half a second. We're all saying he's half a second too slow. The Premier League's too quick. Is it a case that, so it's like, right, well, I'm going to pick up the ball and try and run it. I mean, he couldn't even run when West Ham players. Now, we've seen him on international level and in the Champions League. He can take on a lot of players. So is that too much information and too much in the reverse that's taking any natural flair and ability away from him? And that's the result what we're seeing.
I think players just don't think for themselves anymore, Martin.
Like, they're not allowed to. Is that, yeah.
No, I think it's that they're probably given all these instructions by Thomas Frank, and then they're trying to implement them as best they can. The instructions themselves might be actually wrong. Like, I don't think his tactics are suitable for these players and also suitable to really be pushing where we want to be. They're very negative. They're very regressive. But you could say that Ange was a good case example where Mickey van de Ven had to go to Ange at some point and say, listen, like, we can't play this way like anymore. If we really are going to win something, we need to be a bit more pragmatic. We need to look at sort of being a bit more defensive at times, which showed that some of the reasons we were losing games was simply down to the fact that the players do their very best to follow the manager's tactics. They don't look to question them. They don't look to think for themselves. They follow the manager's tactics to the T, because that's how they get in the starting lineup in the first place. And that's how they get picked week in, week out. But then once they decided to think for themselves, all of a sudden we started winning games. All of a sudden we started actually going where we wanted to go in that competition. So I think it's just the case that players just are kind of like robots nowadays. They're probably too scared to think for themselves. And then also they're just going to do whatever the manager says, because that means they get the
They are a reflection of the manager's mind, didn't they? That's
why you have to question the manager. Like, if the players aren't performing and look really terrible at times, like, maybe it really is just down to the instructions and the tactics that they're being asked to do that aren't getting the most out of them. I wish players thought for themselves more, but I think the game has changed. I just don't think it's that way anymore.
Like, everyone's
an excuse. Then we go back to Conte, but the players weren't great under him. We then go to Ange. If we're
you say that with Conte, but we won 70% of our home games and we were in top 4.
Well, yeah, but again, the amount of games we sat there and said these players aren't good enough. These players aren't good enough. These players aren't good enough. And then we go to Ange.
You're comparing 17th to 4th.
But we came 5th under Ange, and apparently Ange didn't give them hardly any instructions. We had no plan B. And then we're arguing that this manager hasn't got the respect of the players, but yet Ange did have the respect of the players, and he finished 17th. And
I think he did.
But I think Ange had the respect of the players because he.
That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't make a difference.
No,
Just-
yeah, I do
Yeah.
get what you're saying in that regard, but I think Ange had the respect because he took everything in press conferences. He never deflected, to the players and stuff like that. Whereas, and plus, a lot of players, you speak to most players, they want to go on and play.
They
in
want
this
to play attacking football.
fluid system. They want to
Yeah.
play like that. There's not many players across world football that are happy to sit in all these defensive structures. Like
Right.
everyone moans about the lack of goals across the front line and saying it's a lack of quality, but it hasn't
thing
been
is,
coached. It's just
you
bog
put-
standard tactics. Play the ball
Yeah,
out
but
wide.
you put Conte. You put Conte in charge of these players, and I bet he ain't going to get much better. Let's not forget.
I bet you get better than what Frankie's
No,
doing.
let's not forget. Conte had prime Kane and Son.
But he didn't have Romero or Van de Ven.
He's just won the league with Napoli, with one of the most bang average Napoli teams you could ever see.
Yeah, but Italian football isn't the same as what it used to be.
No, but
neither,
don't then
is
just
it?
write that off. Like, he's
No,
about,
look,
he's
I'm
about
not.
to win 2
I'm
league
not
titles.
saying. I'm not saying that. Conte
He doesn't have Kane and Son over there.
Well, no, but then he's probably got a far better squad as a whole. But you give Frank, say, prime Kane and Son. You give Ange prime Kane and Son. This team does a hell of a lot more than what it is doing now.
Look,
That's the point. That's why you're asked questions as a manager. Like, not every manager. Look at what, for example, look at the managers that are above Thomas Frank right now. Marco Silva. He has Raul Jimenez. He has, what is his name as well? Like Harry Wilson. He has Alex Iwobi. He has all these. He has Adama Traore. He has all these misused toys of the Premier League, and he's playing far better football, getting more results on a regular basis than us at the minute. You look at Wolves' coach, Rob Edwards, beat that West Ham team 3-0. That Wolves team is terrible. Nobody would take any of their players, and they beat West Ham 3-0. Even the same case with Nuno. Like, Nuno just absolutely smacked us just over the weekend. Would you really take any of those West Ham players, bar Jared Bowen? None of them.
Well,
So the
again,
manager, not every manager gets Kane and Son. That's where you ask questions of a manager is, can they get the most out of what they're given?
But we also know that whenever West Ham play Tottenham, it's probably their biggest game of the season. It's the one game. It's like us playing Arsenal. It's the one game they just raise. I mean, we don't raise our game, obviously, but
I was going to say, look what we did in the last one.
Yeah, but it's the one game in the sense that you expect your team to raise the game for. It's their big cup final. Beating us is the only thing that they can boast about all season. And it's like us, if we go to Highbury and we win, it's the biggest thing. We've got bragging rights. But I'm not. Look, the thing
Look
is,
at Sunderland's team. How many of the Sunderland players would you put in our team right now? Like, no one knew any of those players before going into the season. Not a single one of their players. And look at how much the manager is getting out of that squad and getting out of those players. Look at Everton right now, like with David Moyes. Their striker, Barry up front, is completely useless. And he's still been able to get him to score some goals. Even at Leeds right now, look at Daniel Farke. Daniel Farke is getting Calvert-Lewin, who I think is one of the most useless players, honestly, at times to watch. He's getting him to score goals. He's getting that Leeds team to all of a sudden win games. Like, not every manager gets world-class players, but they are paid the big bucks because they're able to problem solve and be able to get the most out of the players that they have to work with. Thomas Frank just isn't doing that.
On that argument then, Jack, you're now saying that the players that are playing for Tottenham are top 6 then, basically.
No, I'm not. I'm saying they're better than 17.
You just said that none of the other teams can get in, players can get into our team, and we won't pick them. So therefore,
no, because they're vastly overperforming. Those managers are vastly overperforming with the players that they have. Thomas Frank is not overperforming. He's extremely underperforming.
They're getting the most out of their players.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there.
I understand what Soren is saying in terms of you expect the players to raise their game for a game like West Ham. But if they're already going in there and they're told to sit back and respect them and watch their centre-backs and full-backs and everything else pass around the ball, their belief is being sucked out the longer that game goes on. So even if they go out there with the best intentions, with what they're being asked to do, it's very hard for them to raise their game for that if the game plan is to sit in, respect West Ham, and look to take a point or hit them on the counter attack when they're all looking at themselves in the dressing room and going, well, we're better than these. Why can't we just go after them? And I think that's the big problem. Like, everyone sits here and moans about the lack of goals in the forward area, the lack of flair, but it hasn't been coached for large parts of this season. Thomas Frank only chose to start coaching it when he had one day on the training pitch. Yeah. It's something he should have tried to implement in preseason. He got the job completely wrong when he walked in here. He thought, looking at what Ange done, if I can just coach that defense, everyone, the rest will carry me. And it hasn't been the case. He completely mismanaged the job when he first came in here. And that's something that he had to do coming in here. Something I asked of him when we first signed him. Despite all the party around Thomas Frank and the party poppers and balloons coming off everywhere, the one thing I said, His football at Brentford will not be tolerated at Tottenham by the fan base. He has to be able to coach attacking players. And to Jack's point, Moani has scored goals at other clubs across Europe. Simmons has played at top clubs across Europe. Kudos was a player for Spurs fans were dying for out of West Ham. These are half-decent players. To Jack's point, they're not players that are going to go on and win you a league. You need more in your squad to be able to do that, to be able to manage games and stuff like that. But the fact that we're not getting anything out of them, it's because they're sitting so far deep. Whenever a player gets the ball, he's having to run 50, 60 yards with it and hold off 2 or 3 players. And all the supporting cast are struggling to get up with him. When a player gets the ball, he looks up. He's no one ahead of him. How many times have we seen Simmons do that?
Dave, I'm not having that Mimoani.
Corner kicks at the weekend, right? Thomas Frank sat all 11 inside the 6-yard box. But there was nothing to go, well, if we clear this, there's 3 West Ham players there just to fire in a shot again. All the tactics he's implementing are completely wrong. He sees goals. He instructs his players not to shoot from outside the box because he sees it as low goal scoring opportunities. We've conceded about 15 goals from the edge of the box this season. At Premier League level, Champions League level, when you're up against quality, they're not low goal scoring opportunities. It's a chance. And the way Thomas Frank sees the game, it is good for a club that is looking to survive relegation. It's good for a club that is looking to consolidate themselves in the Premier League. But it is not right for a club that is looking to kick on with ambitions to go and try and challenge, to go and try and win trophies, or even try and get into the top half of the table. His philosophy and the way he sees it is not the way. He's a pragmatist. Tottenham is not a pragmatist club. It's just not working.
Yeah, but Dave, for me, his starting point was we're at 17th. Apart one lower than that, we're relegated. So he's at the lowest point of safety in the league. At the same time, he has won, or that team have won, a Europa Cup. We're going into there. They've added players to him. He's got his back line fit. His starting point was a good place to improve. Right? It wasn't going to be hard to improve. In the first couple of games, we see it. And then all of a sudden, the drop-off's been so bad. And I think he's just overthinking now. And he's lost. And in that time, he's lost the fans. He's losing the players. They look bored. And they look like, and it's just now he's got to try and dig himself out such a deeper hole than he started with. He's struggling. And it's simple as that, really.
It's not just the players. Like the players are clearly bored. And if you like, at the end of the day, the players are what will keep him in the job. And if he can't motivate them, he has absolutely no chance. The fans are bored. Everybody's bored with what's going on. I'm not going to sit here and say Thomas Frank is a bad coach. At the end of the day, he's in football for a reason. He clearly knows to some degree what he's doing. But my whole lifetime's looking at football. Some coaches make a living down the bottom half of the Premier League and are good walking into clubs and being able to keep them in the Premier League. Other managers are cut out for big clubs and able to manage egos. Thomas Frank just isn't cut out for top half.
We say that with players, don't we? They're making that jump from the Bundesliga to the Premier League. We understand that jump, but and I'm guilty of that. I probably didn't understand the jump from your mid-table Brentford to what it would be like for Tottenham. It's you see it in different lights, but the progressive jump is a big step. And although it's taking a team from 10th, 11th to try and get them to 6th, it's only like 4 positions. But as you say, the magnitude of the scrutiny and all that comes with it, that's the big side of it. It's not just about the manager and 20 players, is it? It's the whole complete job with it.
When you look at it, right, what was Thomas Frank known for? Improving players and tactics. None of that is happening at Tottenham Hotspur, which is an indictment of him massively failing at this football club. He's just not cut out for this level. He's not cut out for players with bigger egos. Like some of them players in the dressing room, they've played at top clubs around Europe. Romero's a World Cup winner. You think they're going to sit there and receive the message, we're going out there to defend our lives against Wolves? No, they're not. They have egos. They're sitting there going, just give me the ball. Let me go and beat them. Let me go and win this game for you. And he doesn't allow any players to do that. But also, when players are performing, he takes them out of the team. We wonder why we're sitting here watching bang average performances. There's no incentive to perform under this guy. You perform, you're dropped. You're dropped. So why would anyone else walk out there with the intention of, I'm going to run through a brick wall for this manager. I'm going to go out there and win this game today, knowing that if he does, there's a likelihood he's going to be dropped the following week. And people could say, Dave, you're crazy. Then why did he take out Papa Massar? Why did he take out Pelini when he's performing? Why did he drop Udabur out off the back of a couple of good performances? It's a common trend underneath this guy. So there's no incentive for these players to perform. He is, in my opinion, he's completely lost the dressing room. You've seen that against Chelsea. The players were booed off the pitch. And they're sitting there going, you're booing us off the pitch, but this is what we're asked to do. They ignored Thomas Frank walking off the football pitch. The troubles were way back then. You see, Hell was substituted against, the other night. He was the only winger getting on the ball, taking on his man and trying to produce something. And you could see him when he got subbed off. He's sitting there scratching his head. He's going, me? What the fuck am I being taken off for? Why not take off Mawani, who's done fuck all? Take off Wilson Odubur, who's struggling today. He didn't. He took off Matisse Tell. You go back to Aston Villa. Players, we went at them in the second half, got ourselves back into the game. The two players taking the game to Aston Villa, and another thing I'm sick of. How about actually going into a game and going after a team on a football and merit instead of waiting until we're 1-2 down and then at halftime taking the handbrake off? It's very easy to take the handbrake off when you're in a losing position and say, lads, go for it. And miraculously, we actually look better when the handbrake is taken off and he says, go for it to try and get yourself back into the game. So why not start a game like that?
I mean, the thing is, I don't disagree with anything you've said. The only big issue I've got with that is when we're talking about Thomas Frank and players and all that lot, you can't say that we haven't had chances to score or we haven't had opportunities.
We've had very few though, Soren. Look at the amount of low.
I mean, you look at the one player that we've mentioned, Mawani. I mean, he's had a lot of good chances. He is one of the worst football. I'm not saying in general, while he's been at Tottenham, that I have seen for a long, long time. We go on about Richie's got no touch. That bloke couldn't hit a barn door with a bloody tang. Never mind a football. I mean, that guy does not want to play for this club. He should not play for this club again. I would rather see Basuma play on the Passion he showed the other day compared to Mawani, because that guy, I mean, when we talk about players stealing a living, what the does he do during the match? I mean, you say, well, he's
you're striking walking out onto the pitch, though, Soren, and there's a chance. There's not even going to be a good chance created for you. He's
had plenty of good chances to score.
He had a couple of good chances.
Oh, come on, he has.
There was one game in the Champions League against the weaker oppositions where he could have scored a hat-trick, agreed. But name me really good chances he's had since then. If he's had a load, name me them.
He's had plenty. We had this argument. We had this argument a bit ago, a discussion about it, and we were on about Kane made chances for himself and all this. Well, why aren't we saying the same with Mawani then? He considers himself a number 9. He considers himself a striker. He couldn't hit a barn door if the bloody thing was 10 meters wide.
What chances have we created for him, though? Give me some. I gave you one game where he should have scored a hat-trick, but apart from that, I don't really remember him being put through for any real clear-cut chances to go and score a goal. So give me the chances he's had that he's missed.
There was, what game was it? Not against West Ham, the one before that, where he was on, as you look at the goal, left-hand side, and he came in and he couldn't even hit the target. He hit it wide. There's been several. I'm not going to sit here and say every single match or anything like that, but he has had chances in the box where he's either passed it away because he don't want to shoot, or he's totally missed the target. Now
you're saying he's missing a lot of chances, but how many games have we created 0.0 XG? Like we're not creating chances. Like we're not creating chances.
If you only get one chance and you miss it, then that's the point. But we go on. We sit here and we slate Richie off and say he hasn't got a touch or anything like that. Well, what has Mawani done? He's now been here for a good half season. And yes, I know he was injured to start with, but he's had a good run in this team. And he has done absolutely no. What did he score? 2 goals against PSG and that's it? Or has he scored one in the Premiership?
I understand what you're saying.
No,
right?
the 2 PSG.
We're singling out one
PSG,
player.
that's it.
We're singling out one player. If it was one player underperforming, I'd take that debate all day. Kudos.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I mean,
none of them are producing anything. So therefore, it's more of a system issue than an actual individual issue.
Yeah, but so you just, I mean,
Johnson
this is
scored
an
that
argument with you. You just said Tell's not producing anything, but then at the beginning of the show, we're arguing that Tell shouldn't have been dropped from the Champions League thing. Tell's done more in a couple of games than Moani's done all season. But we're talking about
numbers for all of the front line.
Pardon?
It's not just one player underperforming. You go across.
I know it's not. I'm not saying, but he is by far the worst of the front line that we've got at the moment. This is a professional footballer that we've sat here, and at the beginning of the season, I was one of them saying, "Great, I'm glad he's come. You know, this guy should do something for Tottenham. He's scored everywhere he's gone. He does not want to be at this club now. Whether that's Frank's fault, I don't know.
No, he was desperate at the end of the year. He didn't get his move to Juve, and he was come here and a chance come up on the last day, and he took it. He doesn't want to be here. We know that, but I don't think he turns into a bad player overnight. And Johnson was our top scorer last year. If you put him in this team, do you think he'd be our top scorer? No, he wouldn't, because the chances ain't coming for what he was getting last year to this year. So it's we can argue these points back, but at the end of the day, they've been shit this year, and the chances ain't created, and our XGs. I don't like XG, but when it gets to being 0.03 in fucking 3 games, you've got to take note of it.
You could see the only game that he's actually done anything in was the PSG game. And he actually wanted to play in that game by the look of it. He wanted to do... Well, why ain't he doing that the rest of the season? So you can't just say that it's totally down to Frank. The guy must have an attitude problem or something as well, because he's shown he can do it.
Yeah, it's on both parts. It's on both parts. It's definitely not just on Frank. It's definitely Moani as well.
The thing is...
the tactics ain't helping everyone up front. So we can't just single one out. You've got to look at the whole thing.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. You know, like, you know, a lot of these players that we sign now, people will say they're bang average because they've had a running team and haven't produced. But a lot of people were clamoring for these guys in the summer in previous windows when they've been touted and stuff like that. To Mark's point, you don't just become bad players overnight. But when everyone's underperforming in that front line compared to what they've done at other clubs, for me, it's more of a system issue. It's so basic. Like, you're not playing to any of the guy's strengths. He's not playing to Xavi Simon's strengths. You're putting him down the middle, but you don't like playing through the middle. Moani isn't a guy that's going to get on the end of crosses and score a load of goals, you know, that way. He's a guy that you play in behind, play it to his feet, 1-2s. We don't do any of that. Literally, our tactics is, like, everyone moans about the midfielders not being progressive enough. Jamie Carragher pulled out Paulinho earlier in the season. Fans pulled out Bentancur. But if you actually go and look at the games, all they're being asked to do is get on that ball and move it left to right. And then we go down the wing and put the cross in. It's so basic. It's unbelievable. There's no link-up play. There's no ingenuity. You know, half the times he doesn't even go down both sides. He just picks one side to go down, which means he's neglecting 66% of all the other attacking options you have through the middle or down the other side. The system is just not set up to get the best out of any of these players. The system is set up to what Thomas Frank knows and what he got the best out of maybe at Brentford when he had some of his other players there. But it's a different group of players, which means you have to adapt yourself to be able to get the best out of them, and he's not doing that. Anyway.
I mean, no, I was just going to say, I mean, the problem is that as a football club, like we've said, it's absolutely broken. I mean, the joke with Thomas Frank is if he's not doing the job and he's not getting it out of the players, he should have gone. The fact that he's still here means the players have got to play for him. And if they don't play for him, then he's got to go or they've got to go. You know, I'm going to say it's all right putting the team sheet up. I think we already know what it's going to be.
I think in Champions League,
I wonder if there's any surprises.
They do it late anyways in the Champions League. Yeah.
Anyway,
Al Ben from earlier from Al Ben. He's saying not buying the club and the squad any excuses. Even with our Spursiness, teams that are getting relegated have never dominated us at home like this. #worst manager. This is what kind of the point, a version of the point I was trying to make earlier, where it's that some of the teams that have destroyed us and have dominated us, we wouldn't even take any of their players, let alone, you know, even some of their best players we probably wouldn't even take at our club. And they've absolutely railroaded us, whether it's away from home or at home. It's just the case of the manager for me, Al Ben. He's just getting pretty much beaten week in, week out by every team he comes up against. And the majority of these teams that we're losing to, you would have said going into this month, yeah, you know, we could get a real winning run against some of these teams. We've been beaten for the most part by every single side. You know, Thomas Frank is just simply getting slapped up, whoever he comes up against.
You also have to ask yourself, you know, why is our away record good and our home record's poor? It's because away from home, the pragmatic counter-attacking systems, it works. At home, the onus is on you to go after the opposition, to use everything else to that home advantage to you. We don't do that. We sit back off teams. Like, the one thing I say going into West Ham game is go for them. Their defense is leaking goals left, right, and centre. They're out of confidence, everything else. What do we do? And I said, what we can't do is sit off them, allow them to pass it around and start becoming comfortable and feel their way into the game. And that's exactly what we ended up doing. And we wonder why we're getting turned over at home by even the crappiest of teams. It's because we paid them far too much respect. Way too much respect.
West Ham fans were even like flabbergasted with how good they looked. Do you know what I mean? It's that they I don't know, just the manager how he set up there was just like first couple of minutes. I think if Tell would have got that shot in off the bat, might have been a different game. But the fact that he didn't, and then within 10 minutes, West Ham went, hold on, you're not going to come at us here. And then we just opened the door. And what's his name? Crescenzo, what's Somerville? He just looked like some amazing player. And he come from the championship, you know. It's
big up, Al Ben. The lineups is out, and I can confirm it looks like Jed Spence is playing winger tonight, which is absolutely madness. But big up, Al Ben. Really appreciate the support. Let's get into the lineup. Let's have a quick look at it, and let's see what we're in for tonight.
Zoom in on that. Vicario, Danzo, Xavi, Udogi, Gray, Bergval. So Gray does make the team, though. Romero, Solanke, Pedro Porro, Spence, and Odebear. It could be the case that, I just want to throw this out there. I wonder, it could be the case that, I think you're right, Dave. I think Spence or Udogi could be playing winger tonight, but the midfield is probably going to be Bergval, Gray, and Xavi Simmons. And then Solanke is going to be up top. So Cole Milani has been left on the bench, so Soren better be cheering. And
the argument there as well is Solanke starts where everybody was saying he's not fit to start. So again, let's not forget as well. Earlier on in the season, he did put Spence up front as well on the left, was it, or on the right? It can't remember which game it was. It was an early one, and he played Spence forward. I can't remember if Udogi was behind him or whether he was on the right and Porro was behind him. But there was one game where half-time in the second half at some point, Spence did play up front, and he did look all right, actually. So, I would have probably gone the other way and put Spence in defence and Porro up front, but
it could be the case. It could be the case. It could even be a back three with one of the fullbacks stepping inside beside Romero and Danzo and playing two wing backs. That's
what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that could be the case. It's an interesting one, to see what sort of way it shapes up. But if it is four at the back, then it does mean one of Porro or Spence or Udogi will be playing as one of your wingers tonight, which is an interesting experiment, shall I say. One that might actually work out for him. You never know.
We were all sat here last season saying we want to see Porro as that winger.
Yeah.
Why is it any difference now? Because it might be Spence. It's last season it was okay for us to be asking for Porro up front because he could put in a cross, but this season, because Thomas Frank's now going to do it, it's suddenly they're not the right thing to do.
No, I don't think anyone said that.
I don't think anyone said that.
I had it in the chat earlier. It was the biggest joke of everything that Spence might be playing up front in the top three sort of thing. So
what I will say though is, if it does go wrong tonight, he will be hammered on this decision by dropping Mawani and playing one of the fullbacks out wide. He will be absolutely ridiculed for it. You live and die by your decisions at the end of the day as a manager. Fair play to him. He's trying something, but if it doesn't work out and he's playing a winger as fullback, Mawani's on the bench, he's going to get absolutely ridiculed for it.
But it depends. If Solanke does all right, then he won't, will it? It's hard to say, but so like I say, I don't think Mawani's earned his place as a starter, so it doesn't surprise me. But the interesting thing is, and I know it wasn't going to happen tonight, but it's about time Vicario was dropped.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, you can't drop him for Kinski either, because Kinski just isn't a good. He's not cut out for this level. And I think the one thing everyone missed back in the first international break was reports that came out from Football London and Sky and that, saying that Kinski has regressed behind the scenes, in terms of that. So I think he's at no point where he has to stick with Vicario to the end of the season. But I definitely think there's a fair discussion to have around. Do we need to get a new number one in here in the summer? 100%. Will they get one in January? Probably not. They're probably going to look at more outfield options and stuff like that. But in the summer, I think, you're looking at the West Ham game, for instance. Vicario lost us that game because he's too weak. Sitting on, he's afraid to come out and claim a ball and stuff, So I think there's definitely fair discussions to have around that. But look, let's get Martin and Soren's thoughts on the lineup. Let's get their score predictions, and then we'll get out of here and get ready for the game. We'll start with you, Soren. What's your thoughts on the lineup, and what's your score prediction for tonight?
I think the lineup's what we expected. The other thing, just to back up maybe Mawani being on the bench, is if anything happens to Solanke, he'll go up front. So maybe that's the reason he's not starting. Look at that bench, though. That is a scary bench, isn't it? And not for the good reasons. Do you know what? I've tried to be positive all night. And I'm going to get pelters. I'm going to go with a 1-0 win for us. I'm going to stick to my guns. I don't know why, and I know I'm setting myself up for it, but we're going to do it 1-0.
Look, at the end of the day, Soren, your job is to, as a supporter, sometimes it's just to try and believe. Especially heading into the game. So fair play to you on that one. And look, 1-0. I think many people would snap your hands off for it now.
Tell you what, it's either going to be 1-0 or 4-3. It could be an absolute disaster in the sense of goals going in left, right, and center. It could be just one end to the other. But I'm going to try and stick positive and be 1-0.
Yeah, interesting.
I think Leighton. Do you know what? Yeah, I hope not, Leighton. I hope not.
Yeah. And look, there is a lot of academy boys on the bench, and I do wish them the best of luck tonight, and I hope to see one or two of them, enter the fray tonight at some stage. I think Archie Gray, he did come off training early yesterday, so does he have 90 minutes in him? Not quite sure there, so you might see an Olasesi or someone like that maybe come in. You might see maybe a Williams Barnett maybe enter the fray at some stage. I think he's the one that everyone's excited to really sort of have a look at to see what he can produce. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. Maybe Dane Scarlett might even get another appearance off the bench today. We'll wait and see. Martin, thoughts on the lineup? What system do you think it is as well? And
I've been sitting here looking. I've had my Frank Tactics board out and put the different positions around. I've won Connect 4, so I'll take the win for that. But no, right? Let's see if he can go wild here. Is there a possibility that he does? Danso, Romero, and Spence on the right of a back three. Then he's got the three midfielders: Gray, Bergvall, Xavi, and then he's got Udogi on the left and Pedro Porro playing the wing backs on the right. And I think the Solanke pick is purely to save face about making his reason with the tell thing. That's because he ain't. Listen, he might be fit, but it hasn't looked like in the last couple of games. And is it a possibility he pushes Xavi a bit further up? But then you've got Odebear there. So does he put Odebear up top with him? I don't know.
Just think, we're Spurs fans and we're sat here like this. Just think what Dortmund's doing. They ain't got a clue what we're going to be putting out.
No, that's a good point. But I don't think they looked at us and weren't worried about them. They're just going to play their own game. They know we're thin on the ground. They know Frank's under pressure. They know the fans ain't there. Their fans are going to be singing like you've never heard before. They're having a party. And it's like one early goal, like it did against West Ham. The crowd turn, it could be disaster. But we could get an early goal because he's tried something different and surprised them with that free. Because you could do, you could say Udogi as a left back and Danso on the right and Romero in the middle. and then just say to Doggy, look, you ain't that fit yet. Just stay back as a defender. You ain't got to do loads of running. And then he could put Odebear out on the left and Spence to the right wing and do it that way. There is options there, but we're clutching at straws to find some positive here.
Sky Sports have got Spence on the left in front of a Doggy. And Odebear on the right. That's the way
he's probably being played right, I would imagine.
Where they got Odebear then?
On the right.
Yeah, but I imagine they've gotten that wrong. I would expect Spence to play on the right or Poro to play on the right. And then,
someone makes me think, like I said earlier, though, I think he did play up front on the left. I mean, I could be wrong. I know he's played up front on one side, but I think it was the left. So,
yeah,
look, I mean, we'll see when we get going. You know, we're probably all wrong. It's probably a back nine.
Oh, well, look.
Yeah, Footmob got it as a 4-2-3-1. Spencer, Odeberg, Simmons in the middle. Graham Bergvale would Slanky up front on his own.
Yeah.
Well, you know, time will tell. I think we're about 45 minutes, just about 50 minutes away from
I think my tactics were better, Dave. So I'm going to throw my CV in it tomorrow.
Yeah, I was just going to say, be careful. You might be titled for the job now. You've got your tactics out. Same as Simon Coley, you know, too. You'd be fighting out for the intern position right now. Simon Coley also says, hang on, I'm just arranging my magnets. So do let us know what's Simon Coley on that one. But look, I want to say to everybody, I know times are tough and stuff, and, you know, it's not easy. But you know what? I'm grateful to all you guys out there for, you know, being respectful and, you know, it not getting toxic and everyone eating each other up and stuff like that, because it's already hard enough as is without all that sort of jazz going on and fans attacking each other. And that's what the board want at the end of the day. At the end of the day, fans need to be more united than ever in this situation and start putting the pressure on the ownership and stuff like that. But look, Tottenham do remain 23 games unbeaten in Europe. We have come up against Dortmund 4 times in the Champions League, and we've beaten them all 4 times. So there are good omens heading into this game for Tottenham Hotspur, and hopefully we can win tonight, because getting out inside the top 8 prolongs our season and gives us a little bit more excitement, you know, to look forward to. So hopefully we can get the job done tonight. But guys, that's it from us. I want to say a massive thank you to Martin, Soren, and Dermot as well for giving up their time this afternoon. None of these guys get paid or anything to do this. They purely come off. So I really appreciate every single one of these guys, you know, for turning up here today and giving up their free time, you know, for this. I want to say a massive thank you.
There, Martin, he said we don't get paid, but
yeah.
Well, we don't get paid here either, you know. We don't get paid. But look,
we love you, Dave.
A massive thank you to all you guys for giving up your time. I want to say a massive thank you to all you guys at home as well for tuning in and giving up your time to be here. And a massive thank you to people who have gone the extra mile today to support the channel. Big up Logan, Wembley 1, Simon Coley, the 2 Marks, Harmless Potato, Faz Radfar, Al Ben, and also Sean Hurl, Adrian Schrocker, and Al Ben again. Really appreciate it. Or sorry, not Adrian Schrocker, Adrian Chia. Really appreciate every single one of you guys. We'll be back here for the watch along in about the next 15 or 20 minutes. Hopefully, we can fucking get a win today. As always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Oh,